Chapter 68. He was a bit stunned. He thought that since His Excellency Great Magician had enough gold coins from him, his mood was much better compared to before. Now he was actually in the mood to joke with him. Let's hear the bad news first. I like to leave the good things for last. This is not a good habit. If you leave the good things for too long, they can be stolen by others. Great Magician Camilla shook his head and said something that he didn't understand. But since you want to hear the bad news first, I'll satisfy your wish. Listen well. The bad news is that the Sorcerer's Guild has rejected your proposal to patent the magic array. He gave a sigh, but there wasn't much disappointment on his face. Is there a reason? There's a reason. This is because the Sorcerer's Guild was created by the cooperation of magicians. Since the beginning, the Sorcerer's Guild has always advocated cooperation between magicians, researching magic together, improving together, and making magic stronger. So your proposal has already gone against the basic principles of the Sorcerer's Guild, so of course it won't pass. Great Magician Camilla explained. Researching together and improving together? He couldn't help laughing. There are people who believe this kind of joke. Of the magicians and the signs, which one of them isn't secretly researching magic? If they make a breakthrough with great difficulty, they will definitely hide it, afraid that other magicians will find out. You're telling me that magicians want to cooperate? Hey, Great Magician Camilla knit his brows and forcefully slapped the table. Pay attention to your attitude. No matter what you think in your heart, the Sorcerer's Guild's principles are indeed like this. This proposal was made by a great magician like me. So, it was rejected and it didn't have any effect. If it was you who made this proposal, it was very likely that you would be stripped of your right to participate in the certification exam. Do you understand the seriousness of this matter? He was surprised. Your Excellency, Great Magician, I only asked you to submit the proposal for me. I didn't ask you to bear this name. This isn't much. Just treat it as me working for the 1,000 gold coins. Great Magician Camilla shook his head and casually said, All right, now that you've heard the bad news, I'll tell you the good news. Although your proposal didn't pass, I recommended you to the Magicians' Union. Next month, you could participate in the qualification certification exam with the special recommendation of a great magician. If you perform well in the exam, you can get a higher evaluation than the average magician who participates in the exam. He smiled bitterly. Compared to the bad news, this is a far cry. Your Excellency, Great Magician, you should know that I don't have much interest in becoming a senior magician. Getting a higher evaluation doesn't mean anything to me. Great Magician Camilla glared at him and said with a cold snort, Brat, I'm warning you. Don't be too arrogant. I know that you've earned quite a bit of money from researching magic machines, so you don't have much interest in becoming a powerful magician. But I have to tell you, on the signs, becoming a powerful magician is very important. If you can become a great magician like me, or an archmagus that is even stronger than me, you will find that many things will be much easier for you. Take your proposal, for example. I am a great magician, so it's fine even if it doesn't pass. But if it was you who proposed it, it was very likely that the Sorcerer's Guild would strip you of your qualifications to participate in the exam. But if the one who proposed it was an archmagus, even if this proposal went against the principles of the Sorcerer's Guild, it wouldn't have been rejected like this and would have been properly studied. If it was a great magus who proposed it, Brat, do you know what consequences this would have? He revealed a confused look. What consequences? Great Magician Camilla gave another cold snort. Brat, you don't know what a great magus means at all. There have been less than 10 great magi on the signs in the past several thousand years. Any one of them is a super character that can shake the entire continent with a single step. If this proposal was proposed by a great magus, it wouldn't just be a question of whether it would pass or not. There would be countless people studying the hidden meaning behind the great magus proposal, and no one would be able to predict what the consequences would be in the end. He was stunned hearing this. He thought that this great magus was a bit too strong. According to this, his influence was even stronger than the leaders of the countries on Earth. Seeing Su Yi's expression, Great Magus Camilla gave a cold laugh. How about it, Brat? Now you know that becoming a powerful magician is very necessary, right? I want to talk about something as far away as a great magus. If you can become an archmagus that is stronger than me, then at least in the Lampari kingdom, your words will have more power than the king's. Although your proposal might not pass the Sorcerer's Guild, I dare guarantee that the royal family will fully support you. How about it? Are you moved? Do you have a desire to become a powerful magician? He was stunned for a bit before suddenly raising his hand. A small dark red fireball flew out of his palm at Great Magician Camilla. Great Magician Camilla's heart skipped a beat. He raised a brow and a transparent light blue barrier appeared in front of him. When the fireball hit the barrier, it caused the barrier to tremble. It created ripples like water, and then with a pu sound, it disappeared without a trace. Great Magician Camilla put away the barrier and looked at Sue-E with a look of surprise. Flame Burst Spell. Brat, when did you learn the Flame Burst Spell? Sue-E laughed. How about it? Your Excellency, Great Magician, how is the power of this Flame Burst Spell? Great Magician Camilla narrowed his eyes to look at Sue-E for a while before slowly nodding. It's very good. The Flame Burst Spell is a 4th grade fire spell that is considered very hard to grasp. I never thought that you would be able to cast it this quickly and even change its size. It seems like you've already grasped it quite well. After saying this, Great Magician Camilla gave a deep sigh. He shook his head and said, Sue-E, since you have such outstanding magic talent, why aren't you focused on studying magic? I'm more and more certain that as long as you are focused, you will become an archmagus that is much stronger than me. When that time comes, wouldn't it be much easier for you to do what you want? Even if you like studying magic machines, it wouldn't be too late to study them after you become an archmagus. Sue-E gave a shrug. I've already said it. Everyone has their own ambitions. Perhaps Your Excellency, Great Magician, and all the other magicians of the signs think that becoming a powerful magician is the ultimate goal, but I insist that using magic to improve people's lives is more important. Perhaps you're right. If I become an archmagus, it will be easier for me to study and promote magic machines. But Your Excellency, Great Magician, you've forgotten an important problem, which is time. You think that with my talent, if I focus on studying magic, how many years would it take for me to become an archmagus? This, Great Magician Camilla thought for a bit before shaking his head. That is hard to say. Becoming a powerful magician not only requires time, it also requires some luck. If it goes well with your talent, you might become a powerful archmagus in 30 years. Of course, this is already considered very fast in the signs. 30 years? I'll be close to 60 years old then. Your Excellency, Great Magician, how old do you think I can live for? If I start studying magic machines in 30 years, how many years can I study them for? Great Magician Camilla was speechless. A person's energy and time are limited. Your Excellency, Great Magician, I've already decided to study magic machines, so it's very hard for me to also study magic. Of course, while researching magic machines, my magic power is also quickly growing, right? After a while, Great Magician Camilla gave a sigh and said with a bitter smile, All right, this is the last time I'm advising you. I won't mention this topic again in the future. You're a child like Steel. You have your own thoughts and ambitions, so I have no way or reason to stop you. But as an old man who has lived longer than you, I still want to remind you that on the continent, becoming a powerful magician is useful at any time. You said that you can increase your magic power while studying magic machines. This is very good. Don't forget this. It will be very helpful to you in the future. He gave a serious nod. Yes, I understand. Many thanks for your advice. Other than that, Steel has always said to me that she isn't a child. So if you say this to her, be careful that she doesn't get angry. Great Magician Camilla suddenly looked at Sue-E with a strange look and asked, Sue-E, you don't think that Steel is a child? Sue-E was stunned. After thinking about it, he replied, based on the age difference between us, perhaps she can be considered child. But objectively speaking, she can't be considered a child no matter what. Then again, recently she has experienced quite a few things and has matured quite a bit, so she can't be considered a child. You said that she's matured quite a bit? Great Magician Camilla narrowed his eyes and looked at Sue with a strange expression for a while before suddenly saying, "Kid, remember what I just said. It's best not to leave good things for last because it's very likely that others will steal it." Sue looked at great magician Camilla in a daze, as his head was filled with confusion. What was with great magician Camilla today? Why did he say such strange things? Sue shook his head. The power of the small magic excavator that we've designed is still too low. According to my ideas, the real magic excavator doesn't need the help of the magic plowing machine at all. It can dig a ditch by itself. My final goal is to use the excavator to dig up rocks, which is something that the small magic excavator you're seeing right now can't compare to. Oh, it can even dig up rocks? You wouldn't be joking, right? Count Samo said in a surprised voice. No, of course I'm not joking. If it wasn't limited by the materials, we could have placed a stronger magic array on the magic machines. Like this, the magic excavator's power would increase by quite a bit, and it wouldn't be strange for it to be able to dig up rocks in the end. Sue said in a certain voice. Of course, this wasn't bragging. After studying with great magician Camilla for a long time, Sue was very clear on how powerful high-level magic was. The legendary forbidden spells could even compare to the nuclear bombs on Earth. Comparing it like this, as long as they could properly use the power of magic on the magic machines, it wouldn't be a fantasy for the magic machines to be able to compare to the machines on Earth. It was a pity that they were limited by the rough iron craftsmanship of the signs, so these magic machines couldn't withstand large amounts of power. So Sue could only put these ideas in his stomach for now. It's good for young people to have big goals, but bread has to be eaten bite by bite. It's not good to be in a rush. Count Samo patted Suyi's shoulder with a smile as he comforted him. The magic machines you've designed have already surprised me. If it was before, I would never have imagined that you could reconstruct such a large area of farmland in such a short period of time. It's no wonder that kid, Leslie, confidently told me that he wanted to reclaim all the farmland under his name. Looking at it now, there really is hope. Sue suddenly laughed. Lord City Lord Viscount is actually using the farmland under his name to help me experiment. Although our new flyer has developed all these magic machines, if they haven't been tested, it wouldn't work. This is the attitude that a responsible company should have. As for that kid, Leslie, I think that he really wants you to experiment on his territory. Don't you know how jealous the other nobles of the city are of him right now? Count Samo said with a faint smile. Sue couldn't help laughing. Not only did he know this, he had experienced it countless times. After knowing that Sue would provide many new magic machines to help Viscount Leslie reconstruct his farmland, the other nobles of Banna City all made the same request to Sue. But Suyi's current factory was limited, and he could only satisfy the needs of Viscount Leslie's family. He couldn't agree to the requests of the other nobles at all. Moreover, even if New Flyer could produce many agricultural magic machines, Sue didn't dare casually agree to any noble's request. Viscount Leslie was fine since Sue had started with him, whether it was the magic air conditioner, the small magic harvester, or the small magic plowing machine. Everyone knew that Viscount Leslie's relationship with Sue wasn't normal, but as long as Sue dared casually agree to any noble's request, he would definitely offend all the other nobles. Sue wasn't a fool. Why would he do such a thankless thing? Of course, when Sue rejected these nobles, he also gave them a guarantee. He promised that next spring, New Flyer would produce enough magic machines to satisfy the needs of all the nobles. Even if there were still several months until next spring, Sue had already received high orders worth close to 10,000 gold coins. This order was for all kinds of agricultural magic machines, so it guaranteed that the dwarves led by Camby would be busy all winter. However, this was something that Sue was very worried about. The Magic Machine Workshop wasn't just for producing agricultural magic machines. Compared to this, Sue hoped that they could focus on developing magic machines. Because for industrial development, the magic machines were the foundation of the foundation. It was very hard for any machine to leave the magic machines. If the magic machines weren't developed enough, the development of the entire industry would be limited. This was not something that Sui wanted to see, but Sui couldn't reject these orders at all, so he had been faced with a painful choice during this time. If he wanted to develop the magic machine industry, he had to earn as much money as possible. This was because researching the magic machine industry required large amounts of gold coins, and any research required large amounts of resources and manpower. However, if he wanted to earn more money, he had to shift his focus. Therefore, delaying the research of the magic machine industry was like putting the cart before the horse. In the end, there are too few people. Sui gave a sigh in his heart before turning to Count Samo to ask, "Right, Lord City Lord, the matter I asked you to help with last time, have you made any progress?" Samo Count was stunned before he came back to his senses. He slightly knit his brows. "You're talking about helping you recruit craftsmen? This is a bit difficult. Your requirements for craftsmen are too high, and there aren't many who meet your requirements in Urbana City. So there are also few who meet your requirements in other cities. Not to mention that the craftsmen who meet your requirements are rare talents in their cities, so they won't easily change places and come to Urbana City. So, it's also very hard for me." Sui gave a helpless sigh. Actually, he was very clear that Count Samo was right. If it was that easy to recruit craftsmen, he wouldn't need to be this worried. Chapter 70. Of course, Sui, His Majesty, and the Agriculture Department also hope that since you're exempted from taxes, your new flyer's agricultural magic machines can be sold at a lower price. At least all the nobles in the kingdom can afford them. Samo Count added, "I asked the Lord City Lord to tell His Majesty that this is something our new flyer should do. Perhaps you should also tell His Majesty about our company's farmer support plan. That way His Majesty will know that our company is a company with a sense of social responsibility." Sui said with a smile, "What is social responsibility? Why do you always say these strange words?" Samo Count looked at Sui with a confused look. "Of course, I've also reported your farmer support plan to His Majesty, and His Majesty has praised it. He said that he wants to hear your explanation when he summons you. So you should also prepare yourself." "All right. I will definitely have His Majesty agree to this plan. It would be best if this plan could be promoted in the kingdom," Sui said with a nod. "You can give your opinion when you see His Majesty, but remember, you can't speak carelessly. If you keep speaking like this in front of me and that kid Leslie, don't blame me for not reminding you if you cause any trouble," Samo Count seriously said. "Sui, you and your new flyer are the focus of attention in Urbana City, so no matter what you do, you have to be careful." Sui looked at Samo Count with a bit of surprise. He thought that the Lord City Lord's words weren't casual. Rather, it was a kind reminder. "That's right. I forgot that you're a magician. The Sorcerers Guild's exam next month will be held in Anvilmar City. You should be going to participate, right?" Samo Count asked. I've already discussed this with Great Magician Camilla. I'll be participating when the time comes." "All right. Since you're going to Anvilmar City next month, you don't need to make another trip. I'll send a letter to His Majesty today and tell him about this. When you participate in the Sorcerers Guild's exam, I'll have His Majesty summon you." Sui quickly thanked him with a faint smile. "Many thanks to the Lord City Lord for thinking of me." Samo Count gave a cold snort. "I'm taking care of you because you invented these agricultural magic machines. If Leslie's farmland doesn't have any good results, do you think I'll still be polite to you?" Sui laughed. "Lord City Lord, please be assured, even if I have to go all out, I will definitely give the Lord Viscount's farmland a good harvest." ####. 2 days later, Sui appeared in the dwarf tribe where Master Lanus came from. This time was different from the last time he came with Master Lanus. Because Sui had invested and the dwarves had worked hard, they had built a path from the dwarf tribe to the main road outside. Sui could directly ride a horse carriage into the dwarf tribe this time. This was the first time many of the dwarven children had seen a horse carriage, so they couldn't help surrounding it. Sui had already prepared candies and pastries, which immediately attracted the cheers of the children. The dwarf chief Saluka came forward with a wide smile. "Chairman Sui, you haven't come in this long. I thought that you had already forgotten about us dwarven friends." Sui also gave Saluka a strong hug with a wide smile. Then he pointed at Camby beside him and said, How could that be? Camby and those dwarven brothers are people I interact with every day. Every time I see them, I'll think of my dwarven friends here. I was just too busy during this time, so I didn't come. How is it? Has everyone been well during this time? Thanks to Chairman Sue's financial aid, our tribe's living conditions are much better than before. Not only do the children not have to go hungry, they can even wear new clothes. Saluka laughed. No. Chief Saluka, those gold coins aren't financial aid, but research funds. Do you understand? Research funds. Sue deliberately repeated. A trace of embarrassment flitted across Saluka's simple and honest face. He rubbed his head in embarrassment and lowered his voice. Chairman Sue, I won't hide it from you. Although we've conducted many experiments according to the formula you gave us, we haven't been able to successfully produce that alloy steel you mentioned. You see, Sue smiled faintly, thinking that if materials research was so easy to succeed, he wouldn't have such a headache now. He patted Saluka's shoulder and comforted him. It's fine. Researching this thing takes a lot of time. I didn't expect you to be able to research it in a short 2 months. You can just keep experimenting in the future. There's no need to rush. A blush appeared on Saluka's face. The dwarves were all simple and honest, so the more Sue acted like he didn't care, the more they felt apologetic. Camby on the side was anxious, but he knew that it wasn't convenient for him to say anything for the chief. He could only keep scratching his head and sighing. Seeing the reactions of the two dwarves, Sue couldn't help smiling. If this matter happened on Earth, the research organization would definitely try their best to avoid it. They would say that there were various difficulties, and they would ask the investors to increase their investment. But for these dwarves, a trivial 500 gold coins was already enough to make them feel apologetic. Actually, the 500 gold coins Sue paid each month was to pull in dwarven craftsmen from the dwarven tribe. Now, the 100 dwarves led by Camby were earning more than 500 gold coins for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce each month. Not to mention that these dwarven craftsmen had the most advanced production magic machines, so their value couldn't be measured with simple gold coins. Camby had told Sue that there were several companies that contacted him in secret, saying that they were willing to give him and his subordinates a wage of 20 gold coins each month to work for other companies, but they were all rejected by Camby. Seeing that Saluka and Camby were a bit awkward, Sue thought about it before waving his hand. How about this? Chief Saluka, bring me to see the results of your research. Perhaps I can give you some suggestions. Chief Saluka kept nodding. Right. Chairman Sue, you understand this the best. If you take a look, perhaps you'll have better suggestions. Sue and Camby were led into a giant cave by Saluka and were welcomed by a wave of heat. Taking a closer look, the interior space of the cave, which was more than 10 meters high, was even more than the size of a standard football field. Inside the cave, there were various large and small furnaces built with stones. At this time, more than half of these furnaces were emitting raging flames. The dwarves next to them were constantly adding something into the furnaces. Chairman Suluk, we were experimenting with the formulas you gave us in the beginning, but we never succeeded. Then the clansmen began adding different things into the molten iron, and then there were all kinds of messy. It could be considered the alloy you mentioned, but there wasn't a single one that met the requirements of the alloy you mentioned. Saluka explained with a bit of shame. Oh, all kind of messy alloys? Where are they? Let me see. Sue asked in an interested voice. Here, they're all piled up here. Saluka led Sue to a corner of the cave and pointed at the iron lumps piled up like a mountain. Sue swept a glance at this iron mountain that was twice as tall as him. His gaze involuntarily fell onto the iron ball that was reflecting specks of fire at the center of the iron mountain. Climbing up and taking down the iron ball for a look, Sue was stunned to discover that apart from some impurities, probably due to the failed smelting process, the iron ball surface was extremely smooth. Moreover, its surface was a bright silver and didn't have the slightest trace of rust that an iron tool should have. Sue weighed the iron ball in his hand and surprisingly discovered that it was still very light. He extended his hand and knocked it, but it didn't produce any hollow sound, proving that it was actually solid inside. Is this thing still iron? Sui was somewhat puzzled. He had Saluka bring over an iron hammer and knocked it down forcefully. Surprisingly, the surface of the iron ball only slightly changed shape and didn't show any signs of cracking. It was evident that the iron ball's hardness was pretty good. Damn, what kind of alloy is this? Its performance is actually so strong? Sui couldn't help but become excited. He asked Saluka, "Chief Saluka, how is this iron ball made?" Saluka took the iron ball from Sui's hands and flipped it over for a moment. He found a pattern mark at the bottom of the iron ball and waved his hand to call over a dwarf with an extremely long beard. "Muru, you were the one who burned this iron ball, right?" Now Chairman Sui is very interested. "Tell me, how did you burn it?" The dwarf named Muru's eyes lit up as he looked at Sui expectantly. "Chairman Sui, is this thing useful?" Sui nodded. "Although there's no way to test all of its performance right now, it should be useful for now." Muru immediately said happily, "That's great. We've been tossing and turning for so long and experimenting with thousands of formulas, but we've never been able to make that alloy steel you're talking about. We thought it wouldn't work, but to think that there's actually one that's useful now." Saluka glared at him. "Don't talk nonsense. Chairman, Sui asked you how you made it. Just answer properly." Only then did Muru suppress the excitement in his heart. He took the metal ball and looked at it. He tilted his head and recalled carefully. He slowly replied, "I accidentally poured a jar of silver leaf powder into this thing when I was doing an experiment." Chapter 71. Along with his memories, the dwarf Muru recounted the entire process of crafting the steel ball. While he was talking, Sui kept asking for details. He didn't even let go of how high the temperature of the furnace he used at that time. "This temperature?" Muru scratched his messy hair, a little puzzled. "Chairman Sui, you mean how big the furnace fire was, right?" "I can't tell you that. I can only tell you that I burned it as usual, and it wasn't particularly strong." Sui was a little helpless. Science didn't have detailed data records of all processes like on Earth, and this was actually a major flaw in the process of industrialization. It looked like he had to find a way to solve this problem. Of course, this problem could only be put aside. The most important thing now was the iron ball in his hand. After asking Muru a few times, Sui couldn't get a satisfactory answer, and finally had to ask Muru to simply repeat the process from that day. Hearing that Chairman Sui of New Flyer was interested in the iron ball Muru had refined, the other dwarves who were conducting smelting experiments also gathered around. In front of everyone, Muru thought for a while and lit a bright furnace fire. The first half was a very normal smelting process, and Sui didn't see anything special. However, when the molten iron in the furnace began to boil, Muru picked up a can of powder that glowed with silver light and poured it in, and the situation in the furnace changed instantly. As soon as the silver leaf powder was poured in, it immediately merged with the molten iron in the furnace. A moment later, the molten iron that was already boiling due to the high temperature began to boil even more violently, and the originally red molten iron also began to have traces of silver light mixed in. The process of smelting iron was actually quite boring. Saluka was worried that Sui would be bored at first, but he found that Sui was staring at the molten iron in the furnace from beginning to end. His eyes almost didn't blink, and his expression was active and focused. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. Why was his chairman Sui so concerned about this strange so-called alloy? When Sui arrived at the dwarf tribe, it was already afternoon. When the furnace of molten iron was successfully refined, it was already night. During this time, Sui stayed by the boiler. Other than going to the toilet once, he didn't move at all. In addition, he also took out a notebook and recorded the entire process, as well as the order and quantity of materials used by Muru. After the molten iron cooled down and gradually formed a round ball in the mold, Sui carefully compared this iron ball with the one he had discovered before. After confirming that there wasn't much difference between the two iron balls, he confirmed that Muru had really restored the smelting process from last time. Seeing that it was getting late, Saluka wanted to invite Sui back to the tribe for dinner, but he was rejected by Sui. Having finally discovered a new alloy, Sui was in a state of excitement. As a mechanical engineer, his enthusiasm for his work was bursting. so he naturally couldn't bear to leave at this time. So Saluka simply asked his tribesmen to bring dinner here. The dwarves ate dinner with Su-Yi while carrying out various tests on the iron ball according to Su-Yi's request. After a series of tests, Su-Yi finally determined that this alloy, which had undergone a strange change due to the addition of silver leaf powder, might be slightly inferior in terms of hardness. But in terms of ductility and plasticity, it was very close to the ordinary aluminum alloys on Earth. It was much stronger than the pig iron commonly refined in signs. More importantly, the alloy that had been mixed with silver leaf powder had been piled up in the corner for nearly 2 months, but there wasn't even a trace of rust. It didn't even have to be treated with any rust prevention, and it automatically had the properties of stainless steel. Su-Yi held the iron ball that was a bit deformed from the various tests, and his heart was filled with excitement. The reason why he came to the dwarven tribe this time was because Chief Saluka had contacted the dwarves of the other tribes. He wanted to bring some dwarves back to the magic machine workshop, but he never thought that he wouldn't meet the dwarves he expected. Instead, he unexpectedly found this new alloy. Even if it hadn't been appraised yet, Su-Yi was certain that this new alloy that he had named the silver leaf alloy for now was hard to use in large-scale magic machines because of its hardness, but it would definitely have many uses in light household magic machines. For example, the magic rice cooker that New Flyer had been promoting recently. If they used this alloy, it would greatly reduce the weight of the magic rice cooker. Just based on this, it would definitely make the magic rice cooker even more popular. After the various tests of the silver leaf alloy were completed, Su-Yi immediately gave Chief Saluka a request. He hoped that he and the dwarves of the tribe would do more tests on the silver leaf alloy. For example, changing the amount of silver leaf powder added, changing the temperature of the flames, adding in some other materials. At the same time, he gave Muru 20 gold coins in the name of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce as a reward for inventing a new alloy. With Su-Yi's understanding of material experiments from Earth, he believed that any small change could change the final properties of the alloy. This silver leaf alloy had appeared because of an accident, so if there were more accidents like this, he would definitely support it. Other than this silver leaf alloy, Su-Yi looked through the pile of iron balls again and found another iron ball that was a bit special. Although this iron ball wasn't as conspicuous as the silver leaf alloy, and its properties weren't that outstanding, after testing it, Su-Yi was surprised to find that this iron ball's hardness and wear resistance far surpassed normal iron. For heavy machines, especially large-scale lathes, this kind of alloy was very important. Su-Yi gave Chief Saluka another request, letting the dwarves of the tribe conduct further research on this alloy. This time, Chief Saluka didn't agree as easily as before. Rather, he revealed a difficult look. Chairman Su, we don't have enough tribesmen in the tribe right now. If you didn't pull away Camby's group, there wouldn't be a problem in conducting these two kinds of research at the same time. But as you can see, the tribesmen who can do these things are all here, and there are only a few of them. I'm afraid we can't complete your request. Su-Yi looked around and found that Chief Saluka wasn't exaggerating. Ever since he had dragged Kanbai and his 100 dwarves away from the tribe, the remaining dwarves in the tribe were mostly the elderly, the weak, the women, and the children. Only a dozen dwarves were still capable of high-intensity smelting. How about this, Chief Saluka? Isn't the Angola tribe coming to negotiate with me tomorrow? When the time comes, I'll discuss this matter with them. It'll be best if I can convince them to accept one of the alloy research projects. Of course, it'll be best if Chief Saluka can contact more of our dwarven brothers. Right now, I'm in urgent need of manpower, mainly qualified dwarven craftsmen. I'll take as many as you can. Su-Yi said after some thought. Saluka didn't immediately agree. Instead, he frowned and looked at Su-Yi. Chairman Su, do you intend to fill your factory with dwarves? Su-Yi was startled. Of course not. Right now, there are more humans in my factory. Saluka shook his head. Chairman Su, I think I have to remind you that if there are too many of us dwarves in your factory, I'm afraid there will be problems. Su-Yi was somewhat puzzled. Problems? What problems can there be? I'm just letting my dwarven brothers work in my factory. What problems can there be? Saluka sighed. Chairman Sue, I know you have good intentions, but not all of you humans are like you. More importantly, your human leaders might not think the same way. It's fine if a few of us dwarves appear in your human society. But if a large number of dwarves appear together, I'm afraid it'll bring trouble to you and us dwarves. Sue, he couldn't help but frown. The war between races happened thousands of years ago. Are you still worried about this, Chief Saluka? Chief Saluka waved his hand. Another war between races is impossible. I'm only worried it'll arouse the vigilance of your human leaders. When that time comes, my dwarven brothers won't be able to bring you any benefits. Instead, they'll bring you trouble. Suti muttered to himself for a moment. In the end, he had to admit that Chief Saluka was right. Although the signs were currently led by humans and the other races didn't have the capital to contend with them, the racial divide still existed. Suti recruiting 100 or a few hundred dwarves to work for him wasn't a problem. But if he recruited 1,000 or even a few thousand dwarves, it was very likely to arouse the vigilance of the big shots in the Lampari Kingdom. With so many people of other races under his command, would he want to rebel? Sigh. It seems that no matter which world it is, business can't be completely free from political factors. Suti sighed inwardly. After thinking for a bit, he nodded to Chief Saluka. Many thanks for your reminder, Chief. I'll pay attention to this problem. But I don't think there'll be any problems in this area at this stage. Also, my company really does lack manpower, so I'll have to ask you to pay more attention to this. If it really doesn't work, I can't say that I'm completely unprepared. Chief Saluka lightly nodded his head. Good. Chairman Sue, you're a smart human. I believe you'll have a solution. As for the dwarven brothers of the other tribes, there's no need to worry. At this point, Chief Saluka revealed a bitter smile and a helpless expression. Their current lives aren't much better than our tribes before. Chapter 72. The Angola Dwarf Tribe was less than 100 kilometers away from the Norma Dwarf Tribe, led by Chief Saluka. Upon receiving the news that Sue-E had arrived, the representatives of the Angola Dwarf Tribe arrived early the next morning. To Sue-Yi's surprise, the leader of the representatives turned out to be Chief Monto of the Angola Dwarf Tribe. The two representatives next to Chief Monto were also the two most respected elders of the Angola tribe. Seeing this lineup, Sue-E naturally knew that the Angola tribe attached great importance to this negotiation, so he became even more cautious. However, the process of the negotiation was even more unexpected. The whole negotiation process was very simple. After Sue-E proposed the conditions that he had prepared long ago to Chief Monto and the two elders, the three of them showed undisguised excitement and agreed almost without thinking. This made Sue-E instantly have the illusion that he must have made the conditions too good. However, this condition was proposed by Sue-E in reference to the treatment that he had proposed to Chief Saluka. Other than promising to build a road from here to the Angola tribe, there were no other preferential conditions. This was actually Sue-E completely using the hearts of humans to measure the hearts of the dwarves. The dwarves were a very honest and even straightforward race, and their way of doing things was very different from humans. Sue-E inferred based on human negotiations and thought that Chief Monto would very likely bargain, and then both sides would finally negotiate successfully after a while. Who knew that Chief Monto and the two elders would be so satisfied with this condition that they did not even have the thought of bargaining? Of course, there was a reason why Chief Monto and the two elders agreed so readily. The Angola tribe was not far from here, and as dwarven brothers of the same tribe, the two sides would naturally have frequent contact, so they were very familiar with the situation of the Norma tribe. Previously, the Norma tribe and the Angola tribe were fellow sufferers, and the living conditions of both sides were not very good. However, ever since a human came over 2 months ago, the dwarves of the Angola tribe found that the living conditions of the dwarves of the Norma tribe had suddenly improved. Originally, because the 100-strong dwarves of the Norma tribe were taken away by Sue-E, the dwarves of the Angola tribe thought that the Norma tribe could not hold on anymore, and finally decided to sell their brothers in the tribe to the humans to be their cattle and horses. But they found that this was not the case at all. From what he had heard, The dwarves who had been taken away were now working in human factories. Not only did they eat well and sleep well, but they also received as much as 8 gold coins a month. More importantly, there was even good wine to drink in the factory, and it was the Surd Manor's precious wine. The dwarves of the Angola tribe could not sit still as they watched their compatriots of the Norma tribe gradually break free from poverty. Not only did they have enough food, but they also had brand new clothes. Even the houses of the tribe had been renovated. After learning that all these changes were because of the human called Su-E, Chief Monto had the idea of meeting Su-E. If this human called Su-E could help the Angola tribe like he had helped the Norma tribe and change the lives of the people of the tribe, then he would be considered to have played a real role as the chief. Who knew that before Chief Monto could make up his mind, Saluka would come knocking on his door and straightforwardly mention Su-Yi's request. Hearing that Su-E wanted to recruit a group of dwarven craftsmen, Chief Monto did not even think about it and instantly agreed. Compared to the Norma tribe, the Angola tribe was still a little larger. The total population was almost twice that of the Norma tribe. The Norma tribe could provide 100 dwarven craftsmen, but the Angola tribe could provide 200. Chief Monto even gritted his teeth and directly proposed to Su-E that he could provide 300 adult tribesmen to work in the factories of a new flyer. Patriarch Saluka was shocked. "Monto, are you crazy? How many adult tribesmen do you have in your tribe? If you let 300 people leave the tribe in one go, what will happen to the tribe's lives in the future?" Chief Monto and the 2 elders looked at each other and laughed. "No problem. It's not like the tribesmen who stay in the tribe can't be moved. At worst, they'll have to work a little harder. Besides, Chairman Su has just talked to us about the remuneration for the tribesmen to work in the factories. As long as we persist for a while and wait for the tribesmen to receive their remuneration, things will naturally ease a lot. Don't you think so, Chairman Su?" Su-E smiled and nodded. "Rest assured, Chief Monto. The new flyer and the dwarves have a happy cooperation. We will never delay the payment. However, what Chief Saluka said just now is very reasonable. If you send 300 people in one go, the life of the tribe will definitely be greatly affected." Seeing that Su-E was about to refuse, Chief Monto immediately waved his hand anxiously. No, it won't be a problem. Really, it won't be a problem. I know the situation in the tribe better than you, Chairman Su. Even if we send 300 people away, it won't be a problem. Su-E couldn't help but sigh in his heart when he saw the apprehension on the faces of Chief Monto and the 2 elders. The last time he came to the Norma tribe with Master Lanus to discuss with Chief Saluka, he had already discovered that the living conditions of the dwarves were extremely poor. This caused Chief Saluka to be easily moved by Su-Yi's promise of 500 gold coins. Now, judging from the reactions of Chief Monto and the 2 elders, he was afraid that this wasn't just a problem of the Norma tribe. It was a difficult situation that all the dwarves were facing. "Chief Monto, don't worry. Listen to me," Su-E said slowly. "Actually, I have other considerations. Although our Chamber of Commerce is in urgent need of a large number of outstanding dwarven craftsmen to help complete the work, if we accept 300 dwarves in one go, I'm afraid it will be difficult for our Chamber of Commerce to arrange it with our current ability. For the time being, we can only arrange for about 100. Only 100? That's too little." Patriarch Monto and the 2 elders immediately looked disappointed. "Let me finish." Su-E smiled and continued. "In addition to these 100 dwarven craftsmen who will be directly employed by our Chamber of Commerce's subordinate factories, I also need to hire a group of dwarven craftsmen who are more experienced in smelting to conduct material research. I wonder if Chief Monto is interested in this? Material research? What's that?" Patriarch Monto and the 2 elders looked confused. Su-E glanced at Chief Saluka, who immediately understood. He coughed softly and began to explain to the 3 of them. After a full half an hour, Chief Monto and the 2 elders finally showed an expression of sudden realization. "So, this material research is to constantly experiment with methods of smelting iron?" Chief Monto asked. "That's the general idea. Of course, there will be more detailed requirements. Su nodded. Chief Monto thought for a moment and asked, Chairman Su, do you mean that you want our tribesmen to help New Flyer complete this material research like our dwarven brothers here? Yes. Material research needs to go through a lot of experiments. Although Chief Saluka has some people here, I think it's far from enough. That's why I want to find some dwarven brothers to help complete this research. I wonder if Chief Monto is interested? Chief Monto asked with a frown, but this thing, what benefits can it bring to our tribe? He smiled faintly. He thought that it would be a waste of time to explain the value of grasping the top research results in the signs, so he straightforwardly extended a slap. If you research any results that I approve, the reward will be 500 gold coins. 500 gold coins? Chief Monto and the two elders' eyes shrank, their faces full of shock. When they were discussing the pay for their tribesmen to work in New Flyer with Su, it was only 8 gold coins a month. Although there were many people, the amount wasn't that big, so it didn't sound like anything special. Now that Su had opened his mouth and offered 500 gold coins, the 3 dwarves were immediately shocked. Chief Monto couldn't help but glance at Chief Saluka next to him. His gaze fell on Chief Saluka's luxurious linen clothes that were obviously made by a high-level human tailor, and a trace of envy appeared in his eyes. This Saluka had only been wearing tattered linen clothes when he saw him 3 months ago, but now he could change into such beautiful clothes. It was obvious that this was a change brought about by the cooperation with this human merchant in front of him. When he thought about the shocking changes he saw along the way into the Norma tribe, Chief Monto immediately made up his mind and nodded vigorously at Su. Good. It's settled then. Su immediately showed a sincere smile and shook hands with Chief Monto. In fact, while Chief Monto was excited by the large amount of remuneration Su had agreed to, Su himself was also very excited. This trip to the dwarf tribe could be said to be a bountiful harvest. Not only did they temporarily solve the increasingly serious manpower problem, but they also unexpectedly made a major breakthrough in material research. If the dwarves of the Angola tribe could successfully research several new alloys like Muru's dwarves, then it would be of great help to Su Yi's plan to promote the industrialization of signs. In addition, Su had also established a good relationship with the dwarves through his contact with these 2 dwarven tribes. Although there weren't many dwarves in signs at present, they still had the most high-level craftsmen. Perhaps this wouldn't have much of an impact on other humans, but for Su this was a huge fortune. If he could completely grasp this wealth in his hands, Su Yi's confidence would naturally be much greater. Chapter 73. Perhaps because they had witnessed the changes in the Norma tribe with their own eyes, Patriarch Monto and the 2 elders were full of hope for cooperation with Su. Thus, the entire negotiation, oh no, it could be considered an ordinary negotiation, proceeded very smoothly. In just a short day, Su, and Patriarch Monto had discussed and settled almost all the details. As for the 100 dwarven craftsmen provided by the Angola tribe, Su gave them the same treatment as Kanbai and the other dwarves, a salary of 8 gold coins a month. However, in terms of other benefits, it was slightly worse. This was because Kanbai and the other dwarves had already worked in a New Flyer for 2 months and were now skilled workers. On the other hand, the Angola tribe's dwarves were newcomers and naturally couldn't receive the same treatment. Patriarch Monto and the 2 elders didn't have any objections to this. After all, a salary of 8 gold coins a month was enough to satisfy them. What's more, Su had also promised to build a material laboratory in the Angola tribe. Not only would he provide them with a fixed research fund of 100 gold coins a month, they would also receive a reward of 500 gold coins as long as they produced a result that was ultimately used by the New Flyer. For the Angola tribe that had been impoverished for a long time, whether it was the fixed salary of 8 gold coins a month for working in the New Flyer, or the 500 gold coins for research results, it was like a sweet rain after a long drought. It made them feel incomparably satisfied, so why would they ask for more at this time? The dwarves were honest and straightforward to begin with, and now they felt that Su Yi's conditions were simply to save them. Hence, Patriarch Monto and the two elders pulled Su-E to the Angola tribe as a guest no matter what to express their gratitude. Su-E couldn't resist their enthusiasm and could only follow them to the Angola tribe under the accompaniment of Patriarch Saluka and Kanbai. Probably because their population was double that of the Norma tribe, the dwarves of the Angola tribe lived in slightly better conditions compared to the Norma tribe. However, there was a limit to it, and they were still at the stage of barely not starving to death. But compared to the current Norma tribe, the difference was like heaven and earth. After walking around the Angola tribe, Su-E saw a little dwarf boy happily eating a piece of candy he brought with him. Finally, he couldn't help but ask Saluka, "I'm curious. Why is life so difficult for the dwarves? Dwarves are obviously so hardworking, can endure hardships, and have powerful forging skills. It stands to reason that they shouldn't have been living such a life all the time." Chief Saluka and Chief Monto looked at each other and smiled bitterly at the same time. After a long while, Patriarch Saluka sighed and said, "Chairman Su, I should be asking you humans this question." "Oh." Su-E looked curiously at Patriarch Saluka. "Why?" "It's very simple. Ever since the racial war thousands of years ago, the humans had won a great victory. Following that, they had taken over all the good places in the signs. Whether it is us dwarves, the beastmen, or the halflings, goblins, and other races that haven't been seen in a long time, they can only live in barren lands and can't obtain enough food at all. If we want to obtain food from the humans, we have to pay a very high price. Chairman Su, you come from Bana City. Let me ask you, how much does a pound of wheat sell for in Bana City?" Su-E was surprised. After thinking about it, he replied, "If I remember correctly, the current price should be 14 silver coins per pound. Look, it's only 14 silver coins for half a kilogram." Patriarch Saluka snorted, his voice filled with dissatisfaction. Chief Saluka was very dissatisfied. "Do you know how much you humans sell a pound of wheat to us for?" Su-E knit his brows. There was no need to ask. He knew that this price was very high. As expected, Chief Saluka stretched out a thick finger. "An entire gold coin. You can only buy a pound of wheat. Chairman Su, do you know? We dwarves eat more than you humans. Each person can eat half a pound of wheat in a single meal. This means that a single gold coin is only enough for us dwarves to eat for a single day." When he finished speaking, Chief Saluka's voice had a trace of anger. It was clear that he was already filled with anger from the high price the humans were selling wheat for. "The only hobby we dwarves have is wine, but making wine requires even more wheat. In order to save the wheat that we obtained with great difficulty from the humans, our Norma tribe has already banned winemaking. Chairman Su, do you know that the last time you came to our tribe, it was the first time I drank wine in 2 years?" Su-E couldn't help revealing a bitter smile. He thought that for the dwarves who loved wine like their lives, not being able to drink for 2 years was indeed a very painful matter. It was no wonder that when Su-E promised Kambi that he would give the dwarves wine from the Sachi Manor as a reward, the dwarves' enthusiasm for work had been incomparably high. Thinking of this, Su-E felt a bit strange. "That's not right, Chief Saluka. According to what you said, what are you going to use to earn gold coins? Or what are you going to use to exchange for food?" "Very simple. Use ores to exchange." Chief Saluka casually pointed at the tall mountain outside the Angola tribe. "There are many iron ores in that mountain, as well as magic crystal ores. The humans felt that this place was too far away and it wasn't worth it to mine, so they didn't care. Therefore, we dwarves relied on collecting these iron ores and magic crystals to sell to the humans in exchange for food. If I didn't guess wrong, the price they paid for the iron ores and magic crystals must be very low, right?" Su-E asked in a low voice. "It is very low, but what can we do?" Chief Saluka sighed. "It's also because the humans felt that it wasn't worth it to mine these ores, so they didn't care. If the humans took a fancy to these ores one day and sent troops to drive us away, then we really wouldn't know how to continue living. Now we have to thank the humans for at least leaving us a way out." Saying this, Chief Saluka gave a self-deprecating laugh. Su-E was a bit speechless as he looked at Chief Monto on the side. Chief Monto also had a bitter smile as he nodded to Su-yi and said, although our tribe situation was a bit better than the Norma tribe, it was more or less the same. In the end, we are not humans, and humans are the rulers of the signs. Seeing the expressions on the faces of the two chiefs, Su-yi couldn't help feeling a bit awkward. As a human, he was actually discussing the oppression of the dwarves by humans with two dwarves here. It really made him feel a bit uncomfortable. But the information revealed in Chief Saluka's words just now caught his attention. Looking up at the tall mountain for a while, Su-yi suddenly asked, Chief Saluka, are you dwarves not only good at forging, but also good at mining? Oh, that's right. We dwarves don't have any other specialties, but we are indeed very talented in mining ores. The ores that you humans spend a day mining may not be as much as the ores that we dwarves can mine in the time it takes to eat a meal. Chief Saluka replied, that still doesn't make sense. Since the dwarves are so capable, why didn't the human chamber of commerce hire you dwarves to mine? So he asked again. There used to be, but in the past, the human chamber of commerce offered us dwarven brothers very low wages. Of course, the most important thing was that the humans always discriminated against us. It was easy to be bullied in the human minds, so it was better to come back and work on our own. After a long time, no dwarven brothers are willing to go out and work for the humans. Chief Saluka glanced at Su-yi and continued. To be honest, Chairman Su, if it wasn't for the fact that I had no other choice last time, I wouldn't have agreed to let you take my 100 brothers away. Su-yi nodded. Master Lanus had already mentioned this point to him last time. Of course. Afterwards, Kambai and those brothers said that they were living very well in your new flyer. Chairman Su not only let them eat and sleep well, but also let them drink wine. I gradually felt relieved. Chief Saluka changed to a tone of praise. I have to say, Chairman Su, you are not the same as other humans. You don't have any prejudice against us dwarves. Su-yi shrugged. I'll say something you might not like to hear, but I am a pure human merchant. I only care about whether the other party can bring me benefits, and I don't care about the other party's race. Chief Saluka and Chief Monto laughed heartily at the same time. Chief Saluka even stood on tiptoe and patted Su-yi's shoulder with difficulty, saying, if all humans were as straightforward as you, Chairman Su, the lives of us dwarves would be much better. Su-yi couldn't help but roll his eyes. He didn't expect that his words would be exchanged for such a straightforward evaluation. Glancing at the distant mountain, Su-yi said, Chief Saluka, since you are not as good at mining as the dwarves, you must be very good at prospecting for ore veins, right? Yes. If we dwarves are second in prospecting for ore veins, no race in the signs would dare to say they are first. Chief Saluka said with a face full of pride. That's good. I just happen to have an idea. I need you to find a few experts who are good at prospecting for ore veins. Su-yi said. No problem. Chief Monto beat Chief Saluka to the side and patted his chest hard. When it comes to prospecting for ore veins, our Angola tribe has many. Let's not talk about others. I am an expert myself. Su-yi shook his head with a faint smile. Of course, there's no need for Chief Monto to personally do it. I hope that Chief Saluka and Chief Monto can each pick 5 people from your tribe and then follow my instructions to explore all the places in the Lampari Kingdom. It would be best if they could find all the ore veins. What do the two of you think about this? All the places in the Lampari Kingdom? The two chiefs looked at each other and knit their brows at the same time. This might be a bit difficult, but it isn't impossible. It's just that it will take a bit longer. Give me an estimate. How long will it take? Su-yi kept asking. If it's just prospecting for ore veins and magic crystals, our tribe is very experienced. With a total of 10 people, I think it'll take less than half a year. Chief Monto said. But if it includes other ore veins, it's hard to say. Su-yi was instantly filled with joy. Less than half a year? That's great. Very good, it's decided like this. Chief Saluka, Chief Monto, you two pick 5 dwarves who are the most experienced in prospecting and tell them that not only will our new flyer provide them with enough supplies. After the prospecting, we will also give each of them 100 gold coins as a reward. 100 gold coins? That's too much. As soon as Su-yi's voice fell, The two chiefs quickly waved their hands. This is just a small matter. There's no need for a reward, not to mention 100 gold coins. The Dwarven brothers have worked hard. Of course we need to pay them. Then 100 gold coins is too much. When the three of them were arguing, an Angola tribe dwarf quickly came in front of Chief Monto and loudly said, "Chief, the elven guests are here again." Chapter 74. The three of them were stunned, especially Sue E., whose eyes widened in surprise. Elves? It was actually an elf. Sue E. had already transmigrated to the Signs continent for 3 years, which wasn't considered short. But in these 3 years, he had seen dwarves in human cities and beastmen at construction sites. But he hadn't seen a single elf. According to legend, more than 3,000 years ago, the elves were still the rulers of the Signs. But then the humans quickly rose and finally drove the elves off the throne through racial wars, and they themselves became the rulers of the Signs. Since then, the elves had almost disappeared from this continent. Even if humans went to the forest where the elves lived, they would not see an elf. Many times, the elves had even become a legend, and many people guessed that the elves had become extinct. But now, in this dwarf tribe, Sue E. actually saw an elf. From a moment Patriarch Monto ordered the dwarf to lead the elf guests in, Sue E. could not help but stretch his neck and stare at the entrance of the Angola tribe, his eyes almost unblinking. A moment later, a slender elf, who was as tall as 2 dwarves and almost as tall as Sue E., slowly walked in under the lead of the dwarf. Sue Ye's eyes swept over the elf in an instant, and then he could not help but secretly praise her in his heart. A pair of pointed long ears showed her identity as an elf, and her towering chest showed that she was a female elf. A pair of big blue eyes like 2 springs and soft facial features with a slightly firm face revealed a trace of heroic spirit in her gentle appearance. Coupled with her exposed snow-white but perfectly proportioned calves, she would instantly make people's eyes light up. Sue had long heard that the elves were all handsome men and beautiful women. At first, he did not believe it, but now that he saw this beautiful elf, he chose to believe it without hesitation. This female elf spotted Sue E. from afar, who stood out among the dwarves like a crane among a flock of chickens. After coming over, she couldn't help but size up Sue E. with a curious look. However, the elves had always paid attention to etiquette. Even though she was very curious about Sue E., the female elf still bowed to Chief Monto before saying, "Greetings, esteemed Chief Monto. May the glory of Elune shine upon you forever." Patriarch Monto only nodded slightly in return and said in a deep voice, "Hello, may your feet always stand in Messiah's palm." This was the first time Sue E. had seen such a simple question and answer. He couldn't help but look at the female elf even more curiously. Sure enough, it was just as the rumors said. Not only were the elves beautiful in appearance, but their temperaments were also superb. This female elf had fair skin, a tall and slender figure, and her temperament was even more outstanding. Although her expression was calm, she naturally exuded a sense of aloofness, making people feel that she was unapproachable, but at the same time, they couldn't help but want to get closer to her. After the female elf and Chief Monto exchanged greetings, she immediately said, "Esteemed Chief Monto, may I ask what is the result of your consideration of the matter from last time? Our tribe's current situation is very bad, so I hope that you can agree to my request and help us. Our entire tribe will definitely remember your help this time." Although her voice was still clear and pleasant to the ear, even Sue E., who didn't understand the matter she was talking about, could hear the worry that couldn't be hidden in her voice. It could be seen that when she said the tribe situation is very bad, it was not empty words. Chief Monto revealed a difficult expression. "This, dear young Miss Agnes, although I value the long-term friendship between us dwarves and elves and hope that I can help you solve this problem, you can also see that our tribe is also facing many problems. Moreover, there will be a large group of strong clansmen leaving soon, so I'm afraid we won't be able to take out enough people to help you. How about you go to the other dwarven tribes and ask?" Hearing Chief Monto's reply, The female elf Agnes revealed a look of disappointment, but it wasn't obvious. All right, many thanks to Chief Monto for being willing to listen to my request. I hope that you will always be healthy under Elun's glory. After throwing down these words, the female elf Agnes turned to leave. Su-yi on the side stared at her with wide eyes. Although he had already heard that the elves were a proud race that didn't know how to be flexible, he never thought that this female elf would just run over to say a few words and immediately leave after being rejected. This fellow, did she not know how to talk at all? With her attitude, it would be strange if she could get anything done. If all the elves were like her, then it wouldn't be strange at all for the elves to be chased down from their signs thrown by the humans. Su-yi had all kinds of thoughts in his mind. He suddenly took 2 steps forward and blocked in front of Agnes. Agnes stopped and looked at Su-yi, who had suddenly appeared in front of her with a surprised look on her face. "Human, do you need something?" Su-yi revealed what he thought was the friendliest smile and said with a smile, "Beautiful elven miss, can I ask, what kind of help do you and your tribe need? Perhaps I can help you with this." Agnes slightly knit her 2 beautiful eyebrows and seriously looked at Su-yi for a while before slowly shaking her head. "Sorry, I don't believe in humans." After saying this, she didn't even say a word of farewell and wanted to go around Su-yi. Su-yi never thought that this fellow would be so straightforward with him and not be polite at all. After being stunned for a bit, he finally reacted. When he wanted to stop Agnes again, he saw a green light flash from her body, and she disappeared from the gates of the Angola tribe. Elven magic, shadow concealment technique. Chief Saluka came to Su-yi's side and looked in the direction Agnes disappeared in as he said, "Unless your magic is much stronger than hers, you won't be able to find her, let alone catch up to her." Chief Monto also walked over and seriously said to Su-yi, "Chairman Su, the elves are very hard to approach. I suggest you give up on chasing her." Seeing the strange expressions on the faces of the 2 chiefs, Su-yi knew that they must have misunderstood something, but he was too lazy to explain. He asked Chief Monto, "Chief Monto, she just said that she has something to ask you for help with and that her tribe situation is not good. Do you know what kind of problem they've encountered?" This is already her 3rd time coming. The first 2 times I said I would consider it, but because I already promised to send 100 clansmen to your factory, I could only reject her. Chief Monto said, "As for the problem their tribe is facing, it is indeed very bad. Her tribe lives in the falling rainforest about 200 kilometers away from here. Originally, there was a river that passed through the falling rainforest and provided all the water for her tribe. However, recently, the flow of the river has started to decrease and is even close to drying up, causing the tribe's life to suddenly become difficult." "Oh, there's something like this? What is the reason for this?" Su-yi curiously asked. Their tribe has also investigated it. The reason for this change in the river seems to be because there is more sand at the bottom of the river, causing a portion of the river upstream to change its course. Naturally, the amount of water flowing downstream to their tribe has decreased. Then for them to ask for your help, could it be that they want you dwarves to help them drain the sand from the river?" Chief Monto shook his head and said with a bitter smile, "Although the elves' magic isn't bad, their stamina is average. If they want to carry out this kind of large project, they can only ask us dwarves for help. But how can we spare any manpower to help them? So we could only reject them." Chief Saluka on the side gave a cold snort. "There's nothing we can help these elves with. Even if we use all our strength to help them solve their problem, they will only coldly say a few words of thanks. They won't even give us a few sips of wine. So what's the point of helping them?" Chief Monto said with a sigh, "That's right, if we can live on our own, then on account of our old friends, helping them isn't a big deal. But right now, we can't even take care of our own clansmen, so how could we take care of them?" Su-yi didn't pay attention to the 2 chiefs complaining about what the elves did wrong before, but rather he stared in the direction Agnes disappeared in with a frown. The elves meeting a problem might not be related to other people, but it was not the same for Su-yi. He could keenly feel that this was a good chance for him to come into contact with the elves. It was like what Su-yi had said in front of the 2 chiefs As a qualified human merchant, Su-yi would consider what benefits the other side could bring him when looking at people and wouldn't care about their race. No matter how many problems the elves had, Su-yi knew that they had many advantages that other races didn't have, so naturally there would be enough benefits for him to explore. If he could use this elven crisis to get closer to the elves, perhaps Su-yi and New Flyer would be able to obtain great benefits in the future. Thinking of this, Su-yi took out the notebook he carried with him and drew a few pictures on a page. Then he wrote a large note beside the picture and finally tore it off for Chief Monto. Chief Monto, since that elf came here 3 times, I think you should have some understanding of her tribe, right? Su-yi asked. I know a bit. Chief Monto was confused as he took the paper Su-yi handed him. He looked over it and found that he couldn't understand it. What is this? This is the solution I designed to deal with the diversion of their tribe's river upstream. Show it to her or her tribe, they should understand. Is that so? Chief Monto and Chief Saluka gathered together and seriously looked at the picture on the paper. They still couldn't understand it, so they could only give up. But Su-yi, why are you thinking of a way to help them? That Agnes' attitude towards you just now wasn't good. Su-yi laughed. I believe that after she sees this, her attitude towards me will definitely change. PS1. Thank you for reading 1407091231418856. Tengyu, Fu Sheng, and Fan Alter for their tips. PS2. In order to make the data look good, I'm asking for more recommendation votes. PS3. Some people in the book review section have pointed out several bugs in the book, so I'm very grateful and accept them all. There are many bugs that I didn't consider carefully enough, so I'll pay more attention in the future. I also hope that everyone can point them out if they find them. PS4. As for the currency problem, I'll explain a bit. The exchange rate for gold, silver, and copper coins is 100. 1. This is the common exchange rate for many Magic Continent backgrounds, so I'm not prepared to open a new furnace. As for purchasing power, I set a silver coin to be the same as a small coin. You all understand. So, a monthly wage of 30 gold coins is considered a high wage in Bana City with a low standard of living. When describing the lives of the farmers and dwarves, in order to show that their lives are difficult, I used very low numbers. After being reminded by my friends, I found that there are some problems, so I'll reconsider it and change it when I have time. Chapter 75. After visiting the Angola tribe, Su-yi stayed for another half a day. He gave some details to Chief Saluka and Chief Monto about the material research work he would be giving them before bidding farewell. Camby didn't leave with him and stayed behind. Once Patriarch Monto had made arrangements for the 100 dwarves, Kanbai led them over. As for Su-yi, of course he had to return to Bana City to make some arrangements first. Because the road from the Norma tribe to the main road had been fixed, this trip didn't take an entire day like before. However, Su-yi set off from the Norma tribe at noon, and when he returned to Bana City, it was already nighttime. Even if it was a bit late, Su-yi still went to the factory outside the city. Although night had fallen, the 2 workshops were still brightly lit. Obviously, they were working overtime. During this time, working overtime had become the norm in these 2 workshops. The magic machine workshop, the dwarves were working hard because of the large amounts of agricultural magic machines that the nobles had ordered. The household magic machine workshop, led by Heinz, was also working hard because of the popularity of the magic rice cooker. Actually, there were some interesting twists and turns in the magic rice cooker. When Su-yi first designed the magic rice cooker, it was just a flash of inspiration in his mind, so he didn't consider everything at first. When the magic rice cooker was actually made, he found a serious problem. It was that the main source of food around Bana City was wheat, so naturally the pasta made from wheat was the staple food of Bana City and Bana City. The magic rice cooker's current function was very simple. It could only be used to cook rice, but it couldn't be used to make pasta. So when it was released, Su-yi didn't expect it to be that popular in Bana City. After finding this problem, Su-yi immediately changed his sales strategy. He sold a magic rice cooker to the surrounding cities, especially Karma City that was famous for its rice production. This change in strategy was very appropriate. After seeing how fast and convenient the magic rice cooker was, large amounts of orders immediately flew to the new flyer. Just in Karma City alone, the companies that cooperated with the new flyer because of the magic fan had placed orders for over 7,000 units. Adding in the orders from the other cities and a part of the demand from Bana City, the Household Magic Machine Workshop's current task was to make 16,000 magic rice cookers in a single month. Even if the magic rice cooker was much easier to make compared to the magic fan because it was much faster, it was still a very heavy task. However, for a guy like Heinz, who only knew how to worry about not having a job, this was a very happy thing. During this time, Heinz stayed in the workshop all day, even go to sleep in the workshop at night. He rarely came back to Bana City, which made Heinz's wife come looking for him several times and complain to Sue. But Heinz would be very excited every time he saw the flourishing work in the workshop. So how could he listen to other people's advice? Sue found that it had no effect after trying to persuade him twice, so he could only let him do as he pleased. Heinz, as the factory manager, worked this hard, so naturally the workers under him wouldn't slack off at all. There is no need to mention the 100 slaves borrowed from Viscount Leslie, as well as the 100 workers they recruited later, all worked hard every day. No matter when you enter the workshop, you would always see a scene of work in full swing. Of course, the reason why the workers worked this hard was because Sue had promised them through Heinz that they would be paid for working overtime. This was actually a very novel move. For these workers, they didn't have the concept of working overtime before. In their minds, since they came to work here, they had to do whatever the boss told them to do, otherwise they wouldn't be paid. But the new flyer's method had opened their eyes. Because the magic rice cooker hadn't sold yet, the workshop's work wasn't that heavy, so they strictly worked 8 hours a day. These workers were very confused at that time. They clearly had many things to do, so why did they have to rest for so long each day? Many workers were even a bit unsettled when they were confused. This kind of strange company, could it be that there was a problem? After a while, as the magic rice cooker was sold in the surrounding cities, large amounts of orders came in. When Heinz announced that he would be working overtime, the workers finally let go of the worry in their hearts. They felt that this Frestec Chamber of Commerce was no different from the other companies. But at this time, Heinz announced that they would be paid for working overtime, which made the workers even more confused. What kind of thing was overtime pay? Didn't we already agree on our salaries? Could it be that the company would give us extra money just for doing the work we should do? Of course, being able to get extra money was a good thing. Moreover, this overtime pay wasn't small. If it was calculated, it was even more worth it than working a normal day. So not only did the workers not have any resistance to working overtime, rather they all looked forward to working overtime. When it was time to work overtime every night, Heinz found that even if the workers were tired from working all day, they were even more enthusiastic when they worked overtime. Heinz was very confused by this situation, but Sue felt that it was very normal. These systems were copied from Earth without any changes. Compared to the Signs continent, Earth's systems were without a doubt much more advanced and reasonable. In terms of increasing the enthusiasm of the workers, compared to Signs that treated the workers like cattle, there was no doubt that new flyer system was much better. The most obvious example was that the Household Magic Machine Workshop's efficiency was very high and there were very few problems. It meant that the workers were very focused when working and were completely invested in it. According to the current progress, it shouldn't be a problem to complete the orders. When Sue walked into the Household Magic Machine Workshop, Heinz was inspecting the final assembly of the magic rice cooker with a very focused look. Only when Sue came to his side and patted his shoulder did he react. "You're back." Perhaps it was because he had been shouting in the workshop for too long, but Heinz's voice was a bit hoarse. "How did it go?" "It's done. If nothing unexpected happens, there will be 100 dwarves coming with Camby in a week." "You." Sue suddenly stopped. He wanted to have Heinz prepare a place for the 100 dwarves, but seeing Heinz's red eyes, he couldn't say anything. "What's wrong with me?" Seeing that Sue suddenly stopped talking, Heinz asked in a confused voice. "Nothing." Sue shook his head. He looked around the workshop before patting Heinz's shoulder and saying with a sigh, "It's been hard on you. With such a large production, you must be tired, right? Heinz, I urge you to pay attention to your rest and leave the matters of the workshop to Alex. If you really tire yourself out, Rhea will definitely scold me to death. Hines gave a cold snort. What does she know? Just obediently stay at home and take care of the children. Why would she care so much? Sue revealed a faint smile. Based on Rhea's attitude towards Hines's position in the family wasn't high before. Now that Hines had earned more money after investing in New Flyer, his back was much straighter when facing Rhea. No matter what, pay attention to your body. Our company has too few management talents, and without you, the factory might not be able to support itself. This was what Hines liked to hear the most. He immediately stood up and patted his chest as he said in a clear voice, "Relax, my body is very good. There won't be any problems. But you're right, my work is very important, so I will pay attention to my body." That's good. After chatting a bit with Hines about the workshop, Sue prepared to leave, but Hines suddenly thought of something. Right, Sue, the business union sent an invitation the day before yesterday. It seems like they want to invite you to a banquet. Business union's invitation? Sue was surprised before revealing a smile. Hines, it seems like our New Flyer has already become a large company in Banna City. Hines laughed. That's right. If it wasn't a large company recognized by those fellows, they definitely wouldn't invite you as the chairman to their banquet. How about it? Are you going? I'm going. Why wouldn't I go? Sue nodded with a faint smile. Becoming a large company recognized by the business union, that is a very meaningful thing. It's not a good thing. How could I miss it? Hines also narrowed his eyes with a smile as he kept nodding. Right. Our New Flyer has only been established for 3 months, and it has already been recognized by the business union. Not to mention being the first in the Lampari Kingdom. It might even be rarely seen in the signs. How envious would people be if this was known? After saying this, Hines took out the invitation he had put away. Sue took it and found that this invitation was indeed sent by the business union of Banna City. Moreover, the name of the business union's chairman was written on it. Based on this, it seemed like the business union attached quite a bit of importance to the New Flyer. After waving his hand to let Hines continue working, Sue looked over the invitation in his hand. The happy expression he had gradually disappeared, and it was replaced with slightly knit brows. Those fellows really have a sharp sense of smell. They're already following us. Chapter 76. The end of October was already a bit cold, so the people on the streets of Banna City began to put on their coats and trousers, tightly wrapping themselves up. Compared to the streets, the temperature in the rooms was naturally higher, but even like this, wasn't the time to keep wearing short skirts. Steele, Evita, and Akali had already changed into loose long dresses, completely covering up their good figures. Sue looked over the 3 of them, and a trace of disappointment appeared in his heart. However, this inexplicable emotion was instantly suppressed. His attention was once again focused on the glass ball on the table. The signs didn't have low craftsmanship. For example, the glass craftsmanship was very good. The glass ball in front of him was completely transparent and didn't have a single impurity. Moreover, it was as thick as a piece, and its surface was incomparably smooth. Even if it was brought to Earth, it would be considered an outstanding piece of glass. This is the magic crystal lamp? Sue looked at the ball for a while before asking Steele. This thing costs 200 gold coins? Steele nodded. I had to ask grandfather for help to get this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to buy it even if I had the money. Sue was instantly speechless. This thing was just a light bulb, but it actually cost 200 gold coins. He couldn't even buy it, even if he wanted to. He really couldn't understand it. When Sue lit the candles at home that night, he had an idea. He suddenly thought that since it was troublesome to light candles, why didn't he research light bulbs? Actually, he already had this idea when he transmigrated, but he gradually forgot about it. Thinking about it now, Sue couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart and immediately decided to research it. But when he proposed this idea to Steele's group, he was hit in the head. These signs, there were actually magic lamps that had already appeared. But when Sue asked the 3 of them why they didn't popularize the magic lamps, since there were already magic lamps, and he hadn't even seen a single magic lamp yet, he received an answer that surprised him even more. Magic lamps were too expensive. It was said that the magic array inside the magic lamp was extremely complicated. Ordinary magicians would not be able to complete it. Apart from being able to emit light, this magic array had no power at all. Therefore, after it was invented, not many magicians bothered to study it. As a result, the magic lamp became something with very little practical value. Apart from those who had too much money and wanted to show off, ordinary people would not even think of buying a magic lamp. In a long run, the magic lamp gradually became a very rare item. Naturally, it became more and more expensive and also more and more exquisite. It was completely different from the cheap light bulbs that Sue-Yi thought could be found everywhere on Earth. Although Sue-Yi didn't understand why the sorcerers and signs didn't pay much attention to the application of magic, it didn't mean that he looked down on magic lamps. Instead, he asked Steele to find a way to buy one for him to study. When he was studying the small magic plowing machine last time, Sue-Yi received a revelation. Although the industrial level of signs couldn't compare to Earth's, because of the uniqueness of magic, it had some advantages compared to Earth's in certain aspects. If he could get some inspiration from the magic crystal and help him greatly reduce the cost of production, he didn't mind changing his idea of using the structure of the fluorescent lamps on Earth. Have you studied it yet? Sue-Yi pointed at the magic crystal lamp and asked. The three of them looked at each other. Steele pointed at the magic crystal lamp with a bit of difficulty and said, "This magic crystal lamp is a whole. It can't be taken apart at all. If you want to study the magic array inside, you have to break the crystal cover on the outside. Then break it. What about it?" Sue-Yi was a bit confused as he said this. Break it? We spent 200 gold coins to buy this. Akali's mouth opened wide in an exaggerated manner. She pointed at the magic crystal lamp with a look of disbelief. "I bought it for you to study. What use is there in just leaving it here?" Sue-Yi looked around before picking up a stone from the table and smashing it at the magic crystal lamp. Seeing that Sue-Yi was really about to smash it, Akali and Evita both revealed looks of being unable to bear it. This magic crystal lamp was very finely made and looked very beautiful, making the two of them like it very much. Now that Sue-Yi was about to smash this beautiful thing in front of them, they simply couldn't look at it. Wait! Steele suddenly reached out to grab Sue-Yi's falling hand. What? Steele, it can't be that you can't bear to part with 200 gold coins, right? You've been with me for so long, you should know very well that as long as there is a suitable result, the value of the research will far exceed 200 gold coins. Sue-Yi said with a frown as he looked at Steele. Of course I know that. Steele took the stone from Sue-Yi's hand. Of course it's necessary to smash it open, but you can't just smash it like you just did, right? What if you break the entire magic crystal lamp? If you break the magic array inside, what do you want us to study? Do you want us to buy another one? Sue-Yi paused. I forgot about that. Akali and Evita saw Steele stop Sue-Yi and were happy that they could keep this beautiful little thing. But when they heard Steele's words, they looked at each other in blank dismay. It was a pity that this magic crystal lamp was bought by Sue-Yi, so they had no right to say what to do with it. They could only watch as Sue-Yi and Steele inspected the magic crystal lamp for a while before gently smashing it down at an angle. Voila! The glass cover of the magic crystal lamp was smashed open and shattered on the ground, finally revealing its true appearance. The moment the glass cover was smashed open, Sue-Yi brought his nose over to take a deep sniff, but other than the dust in his nose, he didn't smell anything strange at all. After giving a strong sneeze, Sue-Yi was certain that the glass cover of the magic crystal lamp was only used for decoration and scattering light. It wasn't like the glass covers of light bulbs on Earth, which were used to store the inert gas inside. Of course, this world didn't have the technology to put inert gas into glass covers. When Steele carefully peeled off the glass cover of the magic crystal lamp, the four of them looked at the base of the magic crystal lamp. As expected, there was an incomparably complicated magic array on the base. Just based on the lines of the magic array, one could tell that it was much more complicated than the low-level magic arrays that Sue-Yi's group used to design magic machines. Akali looked at it for a while before hesitantly saying, Sir Chairman, this magic array is this complicated. I'm afraid we can't study it with our current abilities, right? Steele also nodded. I think there's a problem with it. How about you take it to grandfather? He should be able to understand it. Sui also looked at the magic array for a while and found that Akali and Steele were right. This magic array was indeed too complicated. It already surpassed his current level of magic. When he was about to nod in agreement to Steele's idea, he suddenly remembered that Evita hadn't said anything yet. So he turned to look at her. Evita, what do you think? Can you understand it? Evita thought for a bit before saying in an uncertain voice, although I can't understand it, I feel that I've seen this magic array before. Oh, you have an impression? Could it be that you've seen this magic array before? Sui quickly asked. No, I shouldn't have learned such a complicated magic array before. Only, I feel that the style of this magic array is very similar to a magic array I've seen before. Perhaps it's a bit related. Evita replied. Then do you remember the magic array you've seen before? Evita thought for a bit before taking a pen and paper and drawing a magic array on the paper. The other three looked at the magic array Evita drew and then looked at the magic array on the base of the magic crystal lamp before nodding at the same time. It really is similar. Although the magic array on the magic crystal lamp is much more complicated, it can be seen that they are very similar. Steele said. Sui looked at the magic array Evita drew and thought for a bit before asking Evita, Evita, do you know how to set up this magic array? Evita nodded slightly. Good, set up this magic array now and we'll see what the effects are. Akali clapped her hands. That's a good idea. Evita, quickly set it up. Evita nodded and took out some magic materials, starting to set up the magic array on the floor of the living room. This magic array wasn't as complicated as the one on the base of the magic crystal lamp. Evita only took 10 minutes to finish setting it up. Sui indicated for the other three to back off and poured a bit of magic into the magic array. Then they saw a faint green light flash on a magic array, and then a bright white light burst out of the magic array, illuminating the entire living room. But this white light only flashed for a moment before disappearing. The four stared at the magic array in a daze. After waiting for a while, they didn't see any other changes and couldn't help being puzzled. That's it. Akali pointed at the magic array and said with wide eyes, Is there a mistake? It only released a light. What can that do? Still said in a thoughtful voice, This might be a magic array that advanced from wind magic to thunder magic. But this magic array is very strange. It can only release the lightning of lightning magic, but I can't feel the power of lightning magic. It seems like this is a failed magic array. Evita, what did you learn about this magic array? I accidentally saw it in a book. Evita's face was a bit disappointed. I thought it would be a bit useful, but I never thought it would be this bad. The only one who wasn't disappointed was Sui. Rather, he was very excited. Hearing the conversation of the three, Sui laughed. He stood up and patted Evita's shoulder as he said, No, Evita, it is because it is a failed magic array that it is very useful. If this magic array didn't fail and showed the power of lightning magic, how could we use it to make a fluorescent lamp? All right, I'll now announce a research mission to the three of you, which is to properly study this magic array. The final goal is to make it so that it can release a stable light. Understood? Steele's group of three looked at each other before nodding. Compared to the incomparably complicated magic array on the magic crystal lamp, the magic array drawn by Evita was much easier to understand. Of course, it's best if you study the magic array inside the magic crystal lamp. If there is anything you don't understand, you can ask Great Magician Camilla. He is currently our new Flyers special research consultant, so you have to seize this chance to ask him about any problems you have with magic. There is no need to mention Steele. Akali and Evita both revealed looks of excitement when they heard Suyi's words. Being able to ask a great magician at any time was very important to increasing their magic power. After Sui said a few more words, he prepared to leave. Camby had stayed in the Norma tribe to wait for the Angola tribe's dwarves. So Sui had to put in more effort into the production magic machine workshop. Adding in the other work, Sui was very busy every day, so he didn't even have time to stay for lunch. When he walked out the door, a collie suddenly chased after him and called out to Sue. Sir Chairman, are you going to the business union's banquet in 2 days? On how do you know? Sue was a bit surprised. It was Steele who told me. A collie pointed at the door behind her and revealed an awkward look as she hesitantly said, Sir Chairman, can I ask you for a favor? This was Suyi's first time seeing this lively girl act like this, so he couldn't help finding it a bit funny. What is it? Tell me. If I can help, I definitely won't disappoint you. Seeing Sue agree so quickly, a collie's eyes lit up and she quickly asked, I've heard Steele say that you don't have a female companion for the banquet. Sue was stunned as he looked at a collie with a confused look. I don't. What? Could it be that you want to be my female companion? A collie chuckled. Sir Chairman, you're really wise. That's right. I want to be your female companion for the banquet. Are you willing? Sue was a bit confused. Why do you suddenly want to go to this banquet? This kind of banquet is very boring. Well, I just want to go and see it for myself. How about it? Sir Chairman, can you promise me? A collie revealed a pleading expression. There's no problem bringing you. But a collie, if you appear as my female companion on this occasion, aren't you worried that others will mistake you for my girlfriend? Sue teased her. A collie stuck out her chest that wasn't that tall and giggled as she said, As long as you agree, I'm very willing to be your girlfriend. But forget it. If I really become your girlfriend, people will get angry. Sir Chairman, does that mean you're willing to take me to the banquet? Sue nodded. All right, since you want to go so much, I'll take you there. That's great. Sir Chairman, you're such a good person. A collie cheered as she opened her arms and hugged Sue with all her might. Then, she suddenly let go and ran back into the room like a rabbit. Seeing her figure disappear, Sue couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. He really didn't know what these little girls were thinking. Chapter 77. Sue, are you really going to that boring banquet? Viscount Leslie knit his brows as he looked at Sue, looking a bit confused. Could it be that you can't see that those fellows don't have good intentions? Although your new flyer is developing quite well, it's still quite a bit away from becoming a true large company. Those fellows are trying to win you over because they see the technology you have right now. Lord Viscount, you also have a 30% share in the new flyer, so it shouldn't be your new flyer. Rather, it should be our new flyer. Sue said with a faint smile. All right, since it's our new flyer, I have more right to speak on this matter. I'll clearly tell you that I'm against you going to that banquet, and I'm even more against you being with those sly old fellows. Viscount Leslie said with a serious look, although I don't like boasting, I think you have to admit that in Banna City, I, Viscount Leslie, still have a bit of influence. As long as you don't seek death, I can guarantee that new flyer will steadily develop. So you don't need to care about those fellows and just focus on developing some good magic machines. Why do you need to cause trouble? Of course, I believe that the Lord Viscount has this ability. But Lord Viscount, your understanding of business is a bit shallow. Sue said without any politeness. Viscount Leslie gave a snort. Oh? Then tell me, what kind of understanding isn't shallow? I'm just a small fish, so am I seeking death by jumping into a group of sharks? Sue said with a faint smile, perhaps you're right. Compared to the large companies of the business union, our new flyer is indeed a small fish. But Lord Viscount, no chamber of commerce can exist independently. Our new flyer's products are unique, and there are no other companies. But you have to notice that our company has close relations with the other companies. For example, the most important material for making magic machines, iron. We can only buy it from the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce right now, because the iron mines near Banna City are all controlled by them, so we can't do anything. Viscount Leslie nodded and said in a deep voice, I've heard that half a month ago, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce raised the price of pig iron by 10%, right? That's right. Recently, our Chamber of Commerce has received a large number of orders, so we naturally need a large amount of pig iron. It is normal for the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce to take this opportunity to raise the price. So he nodded with a smile. You can still laugh? Viscount Leslie looked at Sue Yi's smiling face and didn't know why he felt very angry. This time, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce raised it by 10%. What if they raise it by another 10% next time? Are you going to pinch your nose and admit defeat? What else can I do if I don't admit it? Lord Viscount, I think you know better than me who the master behind the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce is, right? So, he said calmly. Viscount Leslie was a bit surprised before collapsing like he was discouraged, waving his hand in an annoyed manner. Of course, he was more clear than Sui. The Fulcao Chamber of Commerce didn't seem special on the surface, but this company that controlled 40% of the iron or business in the Lampari Kingdom had a large backing in the form of the Joel family. The Joel family was one of the top families in the Lampari Kingdom. Not to mention a small new flyer. Even if the family behind Viscount Leslie wanted to fight with them, they would have to consider it carefully. Then what do? Iron is the most basic material for making magic machines. It's impossible not to use it. If the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce keeps raising the price, how do you plan on dealing with it? Viscount Leslie couldn't help asking. He didn't have a half-dead, anxious look on his face. Rather, he took a sip from his cup before slowly saying, Lord Viscount, you don't need to worry about this. The increase in the price of pig iron is something that I expected. I would find it strange if it didn't increase. But there is a limit to the increase in price. There are many places that need pig iron, and there are many companies that need to buy pig iron. It isn't just our new flyer. If the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce raises the price too high, there is no need for a new flyer to make a move. Naturally, there will be other large companies that will take the lead for us. No matter how excessive the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce is, they wouldn't go so far as to sell pig iron to other companies at a different price to our new flyer, right? They definitely wouldn't dare. But Sui, don't you feel that this is too passive? Of course I feel that. So I agreed to go to the banquet. Sui revealed a smile and naturally changed the topic. There are some things that if you don't join in, you don't have the right to speak at all. Of course, you can only be passive. But aren't you afraid of being swallowed by them after joining in? Viscount Leslie said with a frown. Sui revealed a faint smile. Lord Viscount, if I'm swallowed this easily, that will be good news for you. I can tell you ahead of time that I'm not worth investing in, right? Viscount Leslie gave a cold snort and nodded at Butler Brunei, who had been silently standing on the side the entire time. Butler Brunei turned around to take out a document. This is the transfer contract for the slaves. Take a look. Viscount Leslie took the document and placed it in front of Sui. Sui looked at Viscount Leslie with a bit of surprise. Lord Viscount, I never thought that you would actually agree. Well, it was time for the factory to give out wages a few days ago. Sui found it a bit hard to give wages to the slaves in the household magic machine workshop. Because these slaves were owned by Viscount Leslie, it was very hard for Sui to give them wages each time. He couldn't directly give them gold coins, and it was a bit troublesome to give them benefits, so he had to ask Viscount Leslie's permission first. After that, Sui tried to suggest to Viscount Leslie that he should just sell all these slaves to him, which would save him some trouble. Viscount Leslie didn't agree at that time, so Sui thought that there was no chance, but he never thought that he would throw out a transfer contract now. You said it just now. I am investing in you. These 100 slaves are a part of my investment. I hope that you can live up to my investment. Viscount Leslie said with an expressionless face. Sui quickly looked over the contract and didn't find any problems, so he immediately signed his name. Now, as long as this contract was verified by the kingdom's law enforcement department, it would immediately take effect. These 100 slaves would completely belong to Sui from now on. Viscount Leslie took the contract from Sui's hand, but he didn't immediately sign it. Rather, he looked at Sui and reached out his right index finger. I can give these 100 slaves to you, but there's a condition that I didn't write on the contract, but rather it is an agreement between us. Listen well. Sui wasn't surprised as he gave a slight nod. In a month, there will be 300 slaves entering the factory. You have to let these 300 slaves learn how to make all the magic machines the new flyer is currently making. This includes the magic fan, the magic rice cooker, and the magic air conditioner that you mentioned, as well as the small magic harvester, the small magic plowing machine, and other large magic machines. Do you understand what I mean? Sui narrowed his eyes as he looked at Viscount Leslie. After a while, he slowly asked, "Lord Viscount, can I ask where these 300 slaves come from?" Viscount Leslie had a cold look. "It's best if you don't ask these unnecessary questions. There are no benefits for you. I'm only asking you. Do you agree to this condition?" He spread his hands and said with a bitter smile, "Can I not agree? Even if I don't give face to the Lord Viscount as a major shareholder, just based on the fact that you're giving me 100 slaves, I have to agree to this condition." "No problem. I will tell Hines and Canby to properly teach these 300 slaves. They can't hide anything. Of course, Lord Viscount, I can't guarantee that these 300 slaves will all be able to grasp them, since everyone is different in the end." Viscount Leslie nodded. "I understand this. You just need to properly teach them." "All right, then I have another question. How long will they stay here? If it's too short, I estimate that they won't be able to grasp anything. If it's too long, it's best if you give me an accurate time so I can prepare ahead of time. Otherwise, once they leave, it will seriously affect the progress of our factory. It'll be half a year for now. If there are any changes in half a year, I'll inform you ahead of time." Viscount Leslie said. "All right, I understand." Seeing Viscount Leslie sign the contract, he revealed a smile that came from the bottom of his heart. Hearing that Viscount Leslie wanted to place 300 slaves, he was a bit surprised at first, but after hearing his request, he wanted to laugh. Viscount Leslie wanted to teach these 300 slaves how to make light and heavy magic machines. But he had forgotten the most important technology that needed to be grasped, which was the production magic machines. It had to be known that although the new flyer had many production lines, producing close to 10 kinds of magic machines at the same time, its foundation was the simple production magic machines that made various parts. If they could truly grasp the production magic machines, they could truly grasp the core technology of a new flyer. He could guess that these 300 slaves were sent by the family behind Viscount Leslie. Their goal was to use these 300 slaves as a foundation to create another new flyer, creating benefits for Viscount Leslie's family. With the power of the family behind Viscount Leslie, as long as they grasped the technology and invested in it, their scale could instantly surpass the new flyer. But he still couldn't understand why Viscount Leslie didn't ask him to teach the 300 slaves how to make the production magic machines. Viscount Leslie wasn't a stupid person, and he had a good understanding of a new flyer, so it was impossible for him to not see the important use of the production magic machines. Could it be that he did it on purpose? He guessed in his heart. But why is that? Chapter 78. The autumn wind was a bit bleak in Banna City, was a bit colder at night compared to during the day. There weren't as many people on the streets as there were a month ago, making the entire city seem a bit desolate. However, in front of a manor to the north of Banna City, there were over 30 horse carriages parked there. Although these horse carriages were of different sizes and shapes, they all had a common point, which was that they were all incomparably luxurious. Not only was each horse carriage decorated with expensive decorations, even the horses that pulled the carriages were divine horses. It could be seen that they weren't normal horses. Just looking at these horse carriages, one could tell that their owners were very rich. Any random person could be an important person in Banna City. There were sounds of laughter that came from the manor, as well as the faint sounds of singing and dancing. It seemed like there was a banquet being held inside. A banquet that could gather all these important people in Banna City. It was rare to see such a thing in Banna City. A pitch-black carriage suddenly turned the corner and drove over. This horse carriage looked very normal, and other than a broken lantern hanging outside, there weren't any other decorations. The horse pulling the carriage was of a mixed color and didn't look divine at all. Based on this horse carriage, it was clear that the person sitting inside wasn't an important person. So before it even reached the gate of the manor, it was already stopped by the guards at the gate. When the guard was prepared to scold it and chase this untactful horse carriage away, the curtain of the horse carriage was suddenly opened and a young man jumped out. Although this man's clothes weren't luxurious and he didn't wear any expensive decorations, his aura was firm and his actions were filled with confidence. One could tell with a single glance that he wasn't a normal citizen. After the guard was stunned, he swallowed the scolding that was about to come out of his mouth. The young man looked at the guard before reaching his hand out into the carriage. A white and delicate hand came out of the carriage. With the support of the young man, a girl who wasn't that tall, had a round face, was cute, and had a lively aura also came out of the carriage. Seeing this girl, the guard was stunned before suddenly reacting. He said in a surprised voice, "You are young Miss Akali." Akali had just jumped out of the carriage when she heard someone call her name. She looked up in a daze and saw the pleasantly surprised guard, revealing a sweet smile to him. "You recognize me?" Of course, of course." The guard nodded his head excitedly. The guard excitedly said, "Young Miss Akali, the billboard you made for the new flyer has always been outside the city gates. I've seen it countless times. I never thought that I would see you in person, really. Really?" The young man on the side was naturally Sue. Seeing this guard chasing Akali, he couldn't help smiling. "Akali, you're famous now. You even have fans." "What are fans?" "Akali, Akali, Akali." "Ah, fans are people who pay attention to and like you. This guard is so excited and happy to see you, so he must be your fan." "It sounds very impressive." Akali rolled her eyes and revealed an even sweeter smile to the guard. "Guard, we are here to attend the banquet. Can you let us pass?" The guard was stunned for a moment before reacting. He looked at Sue E and suddenly understood. This must be the new flyer's Sue E. Chairman Sue, right? "Please come in, please come in." Sue E and Akali were led through the gate by the guard. As soon as they walked through the gate, they felt countless gazes sweep over them. Compared to these people who were all incomparably beautiful, wearing expensive clothes and luxurious accessories, looking very rich, Sue E and Akali's clothes were just too normal. Although Sue E had tidied himself up before going out today, he was still wearing a set of ordinary clothes. Other than being neat and tidy, there was nothing expensive about it. Compared to Sue E, Akali had obviously dressed up meticulously. However, she was only the daughter of an ordinary family. Naturally, she couldn't wear expensive and gorgeous accessories on her body. Her clothes were just an ordinary long dress with a simple light purple shawl on the outside. Of course, it was clear that Akali had carefully designed some small places. For example, her hair was slightly loose and then tied into a bun at the back of her neck, just enough to reveal her white neck. In addition, there was a small accessory in her hair. Together with her round face, she looked lively and playful. Although her luxurious aura was definitely not as luxurious as the ladies present, it injected a different style into this banquet. It was even more eye-catching. The banquet was silent for a few seconds. Suddenly, a burst of laughter rang out. A middle-aged man with a thin face and an equally thin body came out to greet them. This must be the new flyer's Sue E. Chairman Sue, right? The middle-aged man strode over to Sue E. He grabbed his hand and laughed loudly. "I've long heard of Chairman Sue's name, but today is the first time I've seen you. Chairman Sue is really young and promising. I can't help but sigh at how the younger generation will surpass us in time." Sue E frowned slightly. Why did this middle-aged man keep emphasizing that he was young? Of course, Sue E didn't reveal anything on the surface. He just revealed a trace of doubt as he asked, "May I ask who you are?" Without waiting for the middle-aged man to reply, another fat middle-aged man came out. He explained to Sue E with a smile, "Chairman Sue, this is the Serene Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Manhattan rank, who is also the chairman of our Banta City's business union." Sue E recognized this middle-aged man. He was called Mun Cruz, the chairman of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was mainly in the construction industry. Sue E was preparing to expand the factory during this time, so he had some contact with him, so he could be considered familiar with him. Hearing his introduction, Sue E revealed a surprised look. He tightened his grip on Chairman Rank's hand and shook it as he said, "So, it's the Honorable Chairman Rank. I've long heard of your name, but I never thought that I would be able to see you in person today. It really makes me very excited." Chairman Rank gave another laugh. "Chairman Sue's praise is too much. Right now in Banta City, which company is more famous than your new flyer? Chairman Sue's name, even the normal farmers in the villages outside the city are familiar with it, right? Hearing this, the banquet that had just become lively suddenly became silent again. Everyone's eyes fell on his Sue again, but the curiosity in their eyes now had a bit of envy and jealousy. The farmer support plan that the new flyer released last month had been very popular. There were a total of 23 farmers who received support from this plan. These 23 people used the half-rented and half-borrowed agricultural magic machines from the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, earning a lot of attention during the fall harvest and fall planting stages. Relying on the agricultural magic machines in their hands, the fall harvest and planting season outside Banna City was much more efficient compared to last year. Moreover, there were many farmers who opened up more farmland and planted more seeds. If everything went smoothly, Banta City's grain harvest next year would greatly increase. Therefore, the City Lord Count Sean Samo had specially announced in the Banna Times that the City Lord Manor appreciated Sue and the new flyer. He also expressed that he would fully support the farmer support plan that the new flyer proposed, working hard to increase Banna City's grain yield. There were many companies in Banna City, but among all these companies, this was the first time that a company had been praised by the City Lord, so naturally it created a stir. Thinking of the Banna Times that was very popular in Banna City, the Banta Times that everyone read every day, it seemed like it was related to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. The gazes of the merchants looking at Sue became even more strange and complicated. Where the hell did this kid come from? In just a short 3 months, he had established the new flyer from nothing, and now it was a large company that had a place in Banna City. Sue naturally didn't care about the gazes of the people around him. Rather, he seriously looked over Chairman Rank. According to tradition, each city's business union would nominate a representative as the chairman. To be able to become the business union's chairman, of course, they were people with high prestige in Banna City's companies. This Chairman Manhattan Rank had already been the Banna City Business Union's chairman for 3 terms, which was a total of 6 years. Naturally, he had outstanding prestige and ability. It was not something a small new Flyers chairman like him could compare to. An important person like him had personally written an invitation, and now he was this friendly. Naturally, there was a reason for this. Sue, he said with a laugh, Chairman Rank is the one overpraising me. Our new flyer can only do small business with normal farmers. How could we compare to your Serene Chamber of Commerce? Look at everyone here who doesn't have at least one product from the Serene Chamber of Commerce. The Serene Chamber of Commerce's main business was luxury goods, so their customers were either nobles or rich merchants. Not mentioning the high profit margin, because they had good relationships with nobles and large merchants. The Serene Chamber of Commerce was very famous whether it was in Banna City or the surrounding cities. Chairman Rank shook his head and pointed at Sue as he said, Chairman Sue, you don't have a single thing from our Serene Chamber of Commerce on you. After saying this, he looked at a collie on the side and revealed an understanding smile. He turned to wave his hand behind him. A normal-looking young man came over with a wooden box and opened it in front of Sue instantly releasing a ray of light. A collie looked at it and couldn't help calling out. There was a pearl necklace in the box, and each pearl was the size of a thumb. Moreover, each pearl was round and full, being the same size. This kind of pearl necklace was naturally a rare treasure, so the lowest price would be over 500 gold coins. Chairman Rank said with a smile, Today is Chairman Sue's first time attending our business union's banquet. As the union's chairman, I should prepare some gifts. Chairman Sue, perhaps you aren't interested in our Serene Chamber of Commerce's things, but I think that this beautiful young miss will definitely like it. There is no need to ask. Just by looking at a collie's sparkling eyes, Sue knew that she really did like this necklace. After thinking for a bit, Sue took the necklace from the box with a faint smile and said to the stunned collie, Come, I'll help you put it on. Akali was stunned before reacting and quickly waving her hand in a panic. No, this gift is too precious. Without waiting for her to finish, Sue had already opened the necklace, and with a twist of his hands, he put the necklace around Akali's neck. Suddenly being held by Sue Yi's hands and sensing the aura coming from Sue Yi's arms, Akali's body froze. When she reacted, He had already helped her put on necklace. It's very beautiful. It suits you very well. He looked at the red-faced Akali and praised her before turning to Chairman Rank. Many thanks for Chairman Rank's gift. Seeing Su Yi's actions, Chairman Rank seemed very satisfied as he waved his hand and said, "It's not a big matter. Chairman Su is too polite. Come, Chairman Su, it's your first time here. How about we find a place to have a good chat? I'm very curious about Chairman Su." Yi revealed a faint smile. "I've also admired Chairman Rank for a long time, please." Chapter 79. When he came to a small hall in the back with Chairman Rank, he found that there were already 5 other people sitting here. It wasn't a private conversation like he thought at all. Looking over the faces of the people in the room, Yi revealed a faint smile. He thought that Chairman Rank didn't beat around the bush at all, directly bringing these people here. Was he planning to lay his cards on the table tonight? But thinking about it, whether it was Yi or the new flyer, in the eyes of Chairman Rank and these people, they weren't worth mentioning. There was no need to waste time with him, so it was better to directly speak. Thinking of this, Yi's lips couldn't help curling into a taunting smile. "Come, Chairman Su, please sit." Chairman Rank gestured for Yi to sit before pointing at the people sitting here. "Let me introduce them to you. These are..." Yi raised his hand to stop Chairman Rank and said with a smile, "Chairman Rank, these are the most famous merchants in our Banda City. If I don't even recognize them, how could I be qualified to open a company? What do you think, Chairman Morgan?" He was looking at a medium-built middle-aged man with a few strands of white hair. He was the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Fuller Morgan that Yi had mentioned to Viscount Leslie before. Seeing that Yi took the initiative to talk to him, Chairman Morgan revealed a surprised look before saying with a wide smile, "Chairman Su, you must be joking. If we're talking about fame, which company in Banda City can compare to your new flyer? You, Chairman Su." Yi's name frequently appears in the Banda Times. Not to mention people in the same industry like us. Even the citizens of Banda City know about you, right? Yi revealed a faint smile before saying with a shrug, "Actually, I want to honestly do business and not care about other things, but Baron Hannes keeps saying that our new flyer has news to dig out. He always wants to report some things about our new flyer and me, so I can't do anything to him." Hearing this, the expressions of the others changed slightly. When the Banta Times was a novelty, these people didn't care that much, but when the Banta Times quickly became popular in Banta City, even selling to the 2 neighboring cities, everyone noticed the large influence this thing had. Take the new flyer, for example. Because the Banta Times always reported on the new flyer's actions, the new flyer's fame in Banta City quickly soared. Not to mention everyone in Banta City knowing about it. It was the same even outside Banta City. Moreover, each time the new flyer released a new product, the Banta Times would write a detailed report. Not only did it clearly state the use of the new product, it would also praise it, saying that the new flyer's product had brought many benefits to people's lives. Like this, whether it was the nobles or the citizens of Banta City, their recognition of the new flyer was very high. Before, there were people who didn't know the truth and bought imitation magic machines from other companies. But now there definitely wasn't anyone who would do this. Once someone had this idea, they would be called a fool by everyone around them. The Xinfei brand magic machines are the best. If you buy those random magic machines that came from who knows where, you'll definitely suffer a loss. This was something that everyone in and out of Banta City recognized. Moreover, even the large merchants here had bought some new flyer magic machines in their homes. Moreover, they had to admit that the Xinfei brand magic machines were much better than the imitations. The Banta Times had reported on a piece of news from Sultan City a while ago. It said that the Sultan City Leo Chamber of Commerce had learned from a new flyer to produce magic machines. But not only had there been serious quality problems with the Leo brand magic fans they made before, many people had been injured because of the blades falling off. The most recent Leo brand magic rice cooker had exploded, directly causing 1 death and 3 serious injuries in a Sultan City citizen's family. Even though the Leo Merchant Guild could be considered the largest merchant guild in Sultan City, They were also badly battered by the continuous incidents. Their reputation in Southtan City had fallen to a freezing point and even caused hundreds of people to surround the merchant guild. Compared to the Leo Chamber of Commerce, the magic machines produced by the new flyer hadn't had a single accident. Moreover, each Shinfei brand magic machine was very durable, so there was a low chance of a quality problem occurring. Then again, even if there was a quality problem, the new flyer had set up a so-called after-sales service center in Banda City. As long as there was a problem with the Shinfei brand magic machine, they could come here for free for a year to be repaired. This made it so that people who bought the Shinfei brand magic fans didn't have to worry about it. It was because of this clear contrast that in just 3 months, the new flyer and the Shinfei brand magic machines were deeply rooted in the hearts of the people of Banda City and the surrounding cities, receiving everyone's approval. The magic rice cooker that the new flyer released didn't have much promotion in the other cities, but the merchants of those cities took the initiative to come and sell the Shinfei brand magic rice cookers. When the people of those cities heard that the magic rice cookers were produced by the new flyer, they didn't have any doubts at all and directly bought them. The reason for this result was, of course, because the magic machines produced by the new flyer were easy to use and high quality, but the Banta Times had played a very important role in promoting them. The people here were all large merchants in Banda City. How could they not see this point? Morgan looked over and said to Sue E with a smile, "Chairman Sue, I've heard that you have a good relationship with the Banda Times. Chief Editor Baron Hannes?" Sue E waved his hand. "It's just a normal friendship." The others couldn't help rolling their eyes at Sue E in their hearts. A normal friendship? Who are you trying to fool? If it was just a normal friendship, would the Banda Times report on the new flyer for no reason? Moreover, it was always a positive report, and there were no negative reports at all. It had to be known that the companies behind these people had all looked for Baron Hannes, wanting him to report on their companies, but they had all been rejected by Baron Hannes. The reason that Baron Hannes gave was that the Banda Times was focused on the new flyer and the other companies didn't have anything to report on, so they wouldn't attract anyone's attention. Of course, everyone felt that this reason was nonsense, because normal people didn't know, but these people were well aware. On the surface, it seemed like the Banda Times wasn't related to the new flyer or Sue E, but actually the Banda Times was inextricably linked to Sue E. Not mentioning anything else, the reason why the Banda Times could print over 1,000 copies a day was because Sue E had designed a new magic printing press for the Banda Times, which greatly increased the speed of printing. If it was said that Sue E didn't invest in the Banda Times, no one would believe it. Chairman Morgan couldn't help giving a soft snort. "Chairman Sue, aren't you being too unfriendly like this? Even if we know that you have a good relationship with Baron Hannes, it isn't that big of a deal, right? Anyway, everyone here is an old friend of the business union, and you're about to join the business union, so we're all companions. Why do you need to hide this from us?" "Friend?" Sue E revealed a surprised look as he looked at Chairman Morgan while shaking his head. "Chairman Morgan, so you're treating me as a friend? I thought that you never thought of this. Otherwise, why would you suddenly raise the price of pig iron by 10%? When Sue E asked this question, the atmosphere in the room froze. Chairman Morgan was surprised as he looked at Sue E in surprise. He never thought that Sue E would mention this matter in front of everyone, and it was this straightforward, not hiding anything at all. "This," Chairman Morgan said with a dry laugh. "Chairman Sue, how is business related to our personal friendship related? Raising the price of pig iron is a decision made by the company. It isn't something that I can make alone. Then again, this price increase isn't targeted at your new flyer. So, I asked Chairman Sue not to think too much. Is that so? Then the personal friendship between me and Baron Hannes is naturally unrelated to the Banda Times reporting on our new flyer. After all, Baron Hannes doesn't have the final say in the Banda Times." Sue E said with a faint smile. Chairman Morgan was stunned as he narrowed his eyes to look at Sue E. Although he still had a smile on his face, there was a trace of coldness to it. Chairman Rank suddenly gave a cough, attracting the attention of everyone in the room. "Chairman Sue, I've invited you to this banquet tonight. I think that you should have already guessed a bit." Sue E nodded. "If my guesses aren't wrong, Chairman Rank wants to accept our new flyer as a member of the business union. Chairman Rank nodded with a faint smile. That's right, it is like this. With new flyer's current scale, it honestly isn't enough to join our business union. But Chairman Su isn't a normal merchant, and New Flyer isn't a normal company. After discussing this, we've decided to accept New Flyer as a member. I wonder what Chairman Su thinks. Chapter 80. Su immediately said with a smile, being specially accepted by the business union, I'm really flattered. But Chairman Rank, I've only heard of the business union, but I don't know what the business union can do. For example, if our new flyer joins the business union, what kind of power will we have? What kind of obligations will we have to fulfill? Chairman Rank laughed before waving his hand and saying, Chairman Su, you don't need to be this nervous. Actually, our business union is just gathering the large companies of Bandit City together, and then everyone will develop together. This is much stronger than fighting alone. Do you agree with this? Of course I agree. But Chairman Rank, what is this cooperation? So he kept asking. To be specific, the companies that join the business union need to have a close relationship with each other and can't compete with each other. For example, maliciously lowering prices, stealing resources, and etc. Other than this, there will be sharing of resources and information, so there will be preferential treatment between members. For example, if your new flyer joins the business union, you can have a preferential treatment when buying pig iron from the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce. Chairman Morgan gave a slight nod. That's right. Chairman Su, if your new flyer also joins the business union, our Fulcao Chamber of Commerce will have a preferential price for the pig iron your new flyer sells. I can't give you a specific discount for now, but I can guarantee that it will be close to 5%. 5%? Su, he couldn't help smiling. The Fulcao Chamber of Commerce could raise the price by 10% before, but now the discount was only 5%. Compared to the initial price, it had increased quite a bit. Thinking about it, Su let go of this question and turned to Chairman Rank to ask, this is considered sharing resources. Then what about sharing information? As for sharing information, it's much more complicated. President Rank muttered to himself for a moment, then pointed to a chubby man sitting beside him. The chubby man's smile was like that of the legendary Mithriel Buddha on Earth, and he said, let's take President Vincent's Armani Chamber of Commerce and my Serene Chamber of Commerce as an example. The Armani Chamber of Commerce's main business is the cloth business, and a portion of their high-end cloth business intersects with our Serene Chamber of Commerce's luxury goods business. Therefore, the Armani Chamber of Commerce and our Serene Chamber of Commerce will share information and understand the needs of those high-end customers. Su gave a slight nod. I understand. In short, this is a sharing of resources, but this resource is customer information. Chairman Rank revealed a smile. Chairman Su really is smart. It's no wonder New Flyer can develop in such a short period of time. Chairman Rank's too much praise. But Chairman Rank, our New Flyer's current products are all magic machines, and our customers are all normal customers, so we can't share any resources. Of course, if everyone here wants to buy our New Flyer's products, I can make the decision to give you a satisfactory discount. Chairman Su is joking. Chairman Rank shook his head with a faint smile. Chairman Rank shook his head. Your New Flyer's most valuable resource is not the magic machines it produces, but rather, after saying this, Chairman Rank paused before saying with a serious look, the technology needed to produce those magic machines. Chairman Su, do you understand what I mean? Su, he couldn't help giving a cold laugh in his heart. Of course, he understood Chairman Rank's meaning. According to what Chairman Rank said, the various companies of the business union had to share resources. Now that he had listed the technology for New Flyer's magic machines as a resource, it was clear that he wanted him to share this technology. So he only had 2 words for Chairman Rank's idea. Shameless. That's right, shameless. On Earth, what was the most important thing for a company? Some people would say capital, some people would say talent, and some people would say management. But Su, he was very clear that for a company, the core technology was the most important thing. As long as they had the core technology, there was hope for the company. Whether it was capital or talent, they could find other sources. However, once they lost the core technology, they would lose their foundation and there would be no hope for them to make a comeback. Now Chairman Rank had actually asked Sue E to share the new flyer's core technology. If this was Earth, it would be strange if people didn't curse him to death. Of course, this was science, so Sue E didn't have a right to curse Chairman Rank, so he could only remain silent for now. Looking over Chairman Rank and the other five, Sue E could only see undisguised greed on their faces. Sue E gave a cold laugh in his heart. Even if he already knew that today's banquet wasn't a good banquet and that these fellows wouldn't have any good intentions towards him and the new flyer, he never would have thought that these people's faces would be this open, without any disguise at all. As the business union's chairman, this Manhattan Rank directly asked Sue E for the core technology. This was something that these people had already reached a consensus on. Thinking about it, Sue E wasn't that surprised. Compared to these people, Sue E and the new flyer were just small shrimps. If it wasn't for the fact that they had some scruples, they might have directly swallowed the new flyer. How could they waste words with him? Facing the greedy and expectant eyes of the crowd, Sue E slowly said, "Chairman Rank, may I ask what technology you are referring to?" Chairman Rank chuckled. "Chairman Sue, you have to consider this yourself." Of course, as the business union's chairman, I have always followed the principle that all the members of the business union should share all their resources. This way, everyone could develop and grow together. Chairman Sue, do you agree with my point of view? Sue, he couldn't help but curse shamelessly in his heart. Chairman Rank's words clearly meant that he wanted Sue E to share the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce's technology. If he really did as he said, with the Chamber of Commerce behind these fellows that far surpassed the new flyer's manpower and resources, he was afraid that they would easily crush the new flyer and leave nothing behind. I appreciate this point of view. But Chairman Rank, we are all merchants. Since we've given something, if we don't receive something in return, that would be going against the principle of merchants. Don't you think? Sue E said. Chairman Rank instantly understood that Sue E was beginning to discuss conditions. However, he wasn't surprised. Rather, he was filled with joy. He wasn't afraid of Sue E discussing conditions. He was afraid that he wouldn't. If the discussion collapsed today and Sue E turned to leave, then because of Viscount Leslie standing behind the new flyer, as well as his relationship with Baron Hines, as well as the fact that the Lord City Lord was paying special attention to the new flyer, they would have to be wary of making a move against the new flyer. It was good that Sue E had the intention to cooperate with them. As long as they pulled in Sue E and the new flyer with their abilities, it wouldn't be a problem to divide the new flyer. They could also do it in a way that Viscount Leslie and the Lord City Lord wouldn't be able to find any problems with. Of course, the union's principle is to develop together. The members share things, so of course they have to receive something in return. For example, if Chairman Sue is willing to share your new flyer's technology, then I can represent the Serene Chamber of Commerce to say that we will share our Serene Chamber of Commerce's information with the new flyer. Moreover, we can help the new flyer enter the jewelry industry. What do you think? Sue, he could only give a cold laugh in his heart again. Share information on the mines? Lead them into the jewelry industry? What a joke. The new flyer didn't have any foundation in the jewelry industry. So what if they had information on the mines? Those mines were definitely in the hands of the large nobles of the Lampari Kingdom. Without a strong relationship, they couldn't mine them at all. As for leading them into the jewelry industry, that was even more nonsense. The new flyer didn't have any understanding of this industry and didn't have any customer relationships. Even if they could make jewelry, they definitely wouldn't be able to sell it. Chairman Rank's words didn't sound bad, but he was clearly digging a large hole for Sue E to jump in. If Chairman Sue is willing to agree, I will do my best to have the company agree to lower the price of the pig iron sold by the new flyer by 10%, making it cheaper than before. Chairman Sue, what do you think? Chairman Morgan on the side added. After the two of them spoke, the other four also spoke up. They gave Sue E a series of preferential conditions, which could be described as a deluge of heavenly flowers. However, Sue Yi's expression didn't change at all. When everyone finished speaking, he said with a slight nod and a smile, I've already seen everyone's sincerity. It isn't a problem for me to share the technology for making magic machines. Seeing the looks of joy on everyone's faces, Su-yi gave a laugh before changing the topic. But I feel that these conditions aren't that good. Can we change them? Chairman Rank made an inviting gesture to Su. If Chairman Su has any other ideas, please tell us. We're all friends of the union, so we could talk about anything. All right, I have a plan here. Please take a look. Su-yi took out a document that he had already prepared for Chairman Rank. Seeing the plan that Su-yi took out, everyone's expressions changed. This kid, he was actually already prepared. Chairman Rank's expression sunk. He took the plan and looked it over, but his expression became more and more surprised. When he finally finished reading it, his expression was filled with shock. He raised his head to shake the plan in his hand and asked Su, Chairman Su, is this your real idea? It's that simple? Su-yi gave a shrug. It's that simple. Chapter 81. The wheels of the carriage rolled over the stone slabs on the road, producing a series of light clattering sounds that spread out into the night. The inside of the carriage was as quiet as the night outside. For some reason, the usually lively Akali had remained silent ever since she boarded the carriage, her head lowered as if she was thinking about something. On the other hand, Su-yi leaned against the carriage with his eyes closed, a trace of exhaustion on his face. On the surface, his first meeting with President Rank and the others could be considered a happy ending. Both sides were satisfied with the outcome of the meeting. However, Su-yi was very clear that it wasn't easy to achieve this result. From the way President Rank and the others acted, it was clear that they had already planned to swallow New Flyer whole. However, their table manners were too ugly. They hadn't even waited for Su-yi to agree to join the trade union, and had already proposed that he share New Flyer's technology. If Su-yi didn't have other plans, he would have slammed the table and left on the spot. Thinking of the joyful expressions President Rank and the others had when they heard that he had agreed to the transfer of technology, Su-yi couldn't help but sneer. These fellows had made it sound so good to him, claiming that as long as he agreed to let New Flyer join the trade union, he would enjoy many benefits and enjoy many preferential partnerships with the other trade unions. However, if one analyzed it carefully, they had clearly dug a big hole for him to jump into. If Su-yi really was that stupid and shared all the technology of the Frestech Chamber of Commerce, with the difference in strength between the Frestech Chamber of Commerce and those large companies, it wouldn't take long for them to swallow them up. Thinking of this, Su-yi felt that it was a little strange. Since these fellows were the presidents of large trade unions, they naturally wouldn't be so shallow. So why did they think that Su-yi was that stupid? After thinking about it carefully, Su-yi understood. These fellows didn't think that Su-yi was stupid, but they definitely felt that the conditions they proposed were a large temptation for Su-yi. For Su-yi and New Flyer, being able to join the trade union was already an honor, and being able to cooperate with these large companies was incomparably lucky. If it was any other small company like New Flyer, they wouldn't reject this kind of temptation. But they never would have thought that Su-yi's vision for magic machines far surpassed anyone in science. His dream was to create a complete industrial system in science. So how could he be tempted by this small temptation? These fellows had dug a large hole for Su-yi to jump in, but they never would have thought that Su-yi would actually dig a large hole for them. The plan that Su-yi took out in the end was very simple in Chairman Rank's eyes, because in this plan, Su-yi proposed that New Flyer would share the magic fan manufacturing technology with all the members of the trade union. If the other member companies wanted to make magic fans, New Flyer would provide technical support and help the other members build a complete production line for magic fans. The only condition that Su-yi proposed was that for every magic fan that the other members sold, they would have to pay 5 silver coins to New Flyer. Compared to the price of 2 gold coins per magic fan and the profit of over 1 gold coin, 5 silver coins was almost negligible. So Chairman Rank was very surprised because he felt that Su-yi's condition was too simple. Of course, he was clear that asking New Flyer to transfer the magic machine technology was a very excessive matter. so Sue-yi would definitely raise many conditions. But he never would have thought that Sue-yi would only raise such a simple condition. To Chairman Rank, Sue-yi's plan meant that New Flyer was giving up on the magic fan market. This was because as long as the Frestac Chamber of Commerce shared the magic fan technology with the strength of the companies here, they could easily squeeze the Frestac Chamber of Commerce out of this market. Even if with this condition, New Flyer could earn 5 silver coins for every magic fan they sold, compared to the large profit of the magic fan itself. This 5 silver coin profit could only be considered the soup after all the fat was taken away. After seriously looking over Sue-yi's plan and asking Sue-yi about it, Chairman Rank and the other 5 chairmen of the large companies immediately showed great enthusiasm for Sue-yi's plan, and Chairman Rank immediately announced that New Flyer would be accepted into the business union. Although Sue-yi had only handed over the magic fan technology, these people understood that Chairman Rank wanting Sue-yi to hand over all the magic machine technology at once was like a lion opening its mouth. Even if Sue-yi was a fool, he wouldn't agree. Now that he could hand over the magic fan technology, it could be considered a very important first step. With this first step, there would be a second step and a third step. Anyway, Sue-yi had already joined the business union, so there would be plenty of time and opportunities to slowly swallow all the technology that New Flyer had. When they clinked their glasses in the end, Chairman Rank and the others were very happy, but Sue-yi's smile was even happier. These fellows thought that they had gained a large advantage by handing over the magic fan technology, but they didn't know that in Sue-yi's eyes, they had already fallen into the hole that Sue-yi had dug for them. Actually, before these fellows, there was already a company that had obtained the magic fan technology, which was Saltan City's Farsak Chamber of Commerce. With the help of New Flyer, the Farsak Chamber of Commerce had already built a complete magic fan production line. It could be said that they had the core technology for the magic fan, and they had sold over 3,000 magic fans last summer, earning them a profit of over 3,000 gold coins. This was also under the strong suppression of the Leo Chamber of Commerce. Now that the Leo Chamber of Commerce had several serious quality problems, the Farsak Chamber of Commerce's magic fan sales would definitely increase next year. On the surface, the Farsak Chamber of Commerce that had the magic fan could be said to have gained a stable profit from the magic fan technology they obtained from New Flyer. It seemed like New Flyer had lost a large portion of the Saltan Chamber of Commerce's market because of this. But in Sue-yi's eyes, it wasn't like this at all. The Farsak Chamber of Commerce's magic fan production line was completely based on the production magic machines that New Flyer sold to them. Just by selling these production magic machines, New Flyer had already earned several hundred gold coins from the Farsak Chamber of Commerce. Compared to selling them, the maintenance and repair of these production magic machines brought even more profit to New Flyer. The more important thing was that because the Farsak Chamber of Commerce used the magic machines provided by the Frestac Chamber of Commerce, the magic fans produced by Chairman Farsak could only be under the standards set by the Frestac Chamber of Commerce. For example, there were currently 2 standards for the screw bolts used in the second-generation magic fans produced by New Flyer. One was a smaller 3mm diameter, and the other with a larger 5mm diameter. Then the screw bolts used in the magic fans produced by the Farsak Chamber of Commerce could only be of these 2 standards. This was because the magic thread rolling machine they used was made by New Flyer, so they couldn't change the standard of the screw bolts at all. Not to mention that the entire structure of the magic fan had been carefully designed by Sue-yi, so any random changes could create a large problem. In short, even if the Farsak Chamber of Commerce relied on the magic fan to earn large amounts of profit, they were also included in the standards set by New Flyer because of the magic fan. If they couldn't make any major breakthroughs in their technology in the future, they could only be led by the nose by New Flyer. However, it was easier said than done to make major breakthroughs in their technology. Sue-yi could design these magic machines because of the hundreds of years of research he had brought from Earth. The signs didn't have this foundation before, so how could they compare to Sue-yi in this aspect at all? Now that Chairman Rank and the others wanted to obtain the magic machine technology from New Flyer, Sue-yi naturally wouldn't reject them. It was impossible to give them all the magic machine technology at once. So, Sui first gave them the magic fan technology that seemed like a fat bone to satisfy their hunger. They would definitely feel very refreshed when they ate this bone, but as for whether their teeth would fall out or not, Sui didn't dare guarantee that. Thinking of this, Sui couldn't help laughing. Akali on the side had her head down thinking about something, but when she suddenly heard Suyi's strange laughter, she couldn't help looking at Sui and asking in a confused voice, "Sir Chairman, what are you suddenly laughing about?" It's nothing. I was just thinking about something." Sui came back to his senses and rubbed his face. He looked at Akali and suddenly remembered that this little girl hadn't said anything the entire time, so he couldn't help feeling a bit strange. "That's right, what are you thinking about? Being silent the entire time isn't like your style." Akali opened her mouth and suddenly gave a sigh. She lowered her head, and after a while, she said in a muffled voice, "Sir Chairman, I just suddenly felt that my life is too different from those rich people's, but I also envy their lives. What do you think I should do?" Sui couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that Akali had been stimulated at the banquet. As an ordinary girl from an ordinary family, it wasn't strange for a girl of Akali's age to be stimulated and yearn for the rich people's luxurious lives with her own eyes. After thinking about it, Sui replied, "There are two ways. The first is to become rich yourself, and the second is to marry a rich man. Which way would you choose?" Akali raised her head in surprise and looked at Sui. She frowned and said, "Sir Chairman, you are really straightforward. I thought you would comfort me and say that the rich people's lives aren't that good, and that they also have a lot of worries. I didn't expect you to say it so harshly." Sui shrugged and said, "Nice words are only said by a little boy to a little girl. Although this is the truth, as a 27-year-old man who is called uncle by Steel, I don't think it's meaningful to say it now." Akali couldn't help but laugh. She rolled her eyes at Sui and asked, "Then, uncle, what do you think is meaningful?" Sui thought about it and said seriously, "No matter what, we have to admit that the rich people's lives are at least better than ordinary people's in terms of material conditions. It's normal for you to envy their lives. This is human nature. However, unless you were born into a rich family, money won't fall from the sky. So if you want to enjoy the material life of a rich person, you can only use the two methods I mentioned. Which one do you choose?" Akali rolled her eyes and suddenly gave Sui a sweet smile. "Sir Chairman, can I marry you?" Chapter 82. 2 days later, Camby finally brought 100 dwarves from the Angola tribe to Banda City. Sui arranged for these dwarves to live in the dorms that had already been built and asked Camby to take care of them as the manager of the magic machine workshop. At the same time, he asked Camby and the 100 dwarves from the Norma tribe to familiarize them with the work of the magic machine workshop as soon as possible, so that they could start working as soon as possible. The production of the magic machine workshop was very heavy right now, and it could be foreseen that it would be even heavier in the future. Naturally, it was better to familiarize the dwarves of the Angola tribe with the work as soon as possible. Do you see it? From here to the river and then to the factory, extending 500 meters to the west. On this large piece of land, I want to build a large factory, and the roof of the factory has to be high enough. It can't be less than 4 meters. Can you do it? Sui was currently standing in the open space outside the magic machine workshop, talking to a middle-aged man with a dark face wearing blue linen clothes. The middle-aged man looked at the area Sui was pointing at, and after thinking about it, he slightly knit his brows. "Chairman Sui, your request is a bit high. I'm afraid it will be a bit hard to build this house." "Let's not talk about how hard it is. Just tell me if it can be built or not. If it can't be built, I can only find someone else to build it," Sui said. The middle-aged man patted his chest and confidently said, "That definitely won't be a problem. If our Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce can't build it, no one else can." Sui nodded. "Then that's good." This middle-aged man was called Wayne Riley. He was a manager of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. He was in charge of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's construction projects outside. In a normal situation, for a small factory like Sui's, there was no need for a manager like him to personally make a move. But when the new flyer proposed this request to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's chairman Mun Cruz had found Riley and asked him to personally take charge of this project. Based on Chairman Cruz's serious attitude, Riley knew that Sir Chairman placed great importance on this new flyer. So when he faced Sue E., he was very polite and even respectful. "Manager Riley, I want this factory to be sturdy enough because when the time comes, there will be over 400 to 500 workers working inside. If there is a problem, it will be several hundred lives. Can you guarantee that?" Sue E. then said. Riley looked like he was insulted as he said with a red face, "Chairman Sue, you don't believe me?" Sue E. revealed a smile and patted Riley's shoulder as he said, "It isn't that I don't believe you. I'm just telling you how important this is. I hope that you can properly supervise this. Whether it is the materials or the workmanship, I want the best, so money isn't a problem. Do you understand what I mean?" Riley forcefully nodded. "Relax. Sir Chairman Cruz personally told me that I have to be careful when building this. There can't be any mistakes. Of course I'll pay attention." Sue E. laughed. "Very good. Chairman Cruz is my good friend. I believe in his promise." Seeing Riley begin to survey the area according to his gestures, Sue E. looked into the distance and knit his brows. When he first rented this hectare of land from Viscount Leslie, Hines felt that it was too big. With the size of a new flyer at the time, they didn't need such a large piece of land. Only 1 hectare was enough. Sue E. had rejected Hines's idea back then. He was very clear that with the development of a new flyer, the factory would need more and more land, so 1 hectare wasn't enough. However, even Sue E. never expected that the new flyer would develop this quickly. Once the magic machines appeared, they were welcomed by Banta City and the surrounding cities. Now that the new flyer received more and more orders, naturally they had to expand the factory. Sue E. thought that 1 hectare was enough at first, but looking at it now, it didn't seem like it was enough. The Household Magic Machine Workshop, led by Hines, was fine because the household magic machines were small machines that didn't take up that much space. But the Magic Machine Workshop, led by Camby and the other dwarves, was completely different. Even if it was the small magic harvester and the other magic machines with the word small, any one of them took up several times more space than the magic fan or the magic rice cooker, not to mention the magic machines that took up even more space. So Sue Yi's first choice was to expand the Magic Machine Workshop. According to the current output of the Magic Machine Workshop, as well as the large demand they would face in the future, Sue E directly expanded the Magic Machine Workshop by 10 times. If the new workshop was finished and he could recruit enough craftsmen, the output of the workshop would increase by more than 10 times. At that time, not only would he be able to satisfy the needs of Banta City and the surrounding cities, he would be able to spread the influence of a new flyer to even further cities. What Sue E was looking forward to the most was meeting the king. 2 days ago, the Lord City Lord had sent someone to inform Sue E that the king was very interested in the agricultural magic machines of a new flyer and had decided to summon Sue E. When Sue E went to Anvilmar City to participate in the Sorcerer's Guild certification exam, he would immediately report and wait for the king to summon him. Sue E had already lived in the signs for 3 years, so he was very clear on the importance of agriculture on the continent that didn't have high productivity. Now that the agricultural magic machines of a new flyer could increase the productivity of the farmland and increase the grain yield, it would definitely attract the attention of the kingdom's high level. Sue E was even certain that as long as His Majesty was satisfied with the benefits brought by the agricultural magic machines, he would definitely promote these agricultural magic machines. At that time, New Flyer would receive large amounts of orders for the agricultural magic machines. If they didn't prepare ahead of time, if they couldn't fulfill the king's request, not mentioning the fact that New Flyer would miss a good opportunity, it might even turn into a bad thing. Thinking of this, Sue E suddenly revealed a bitter smile. Hines always said that he was thinking too far ahead, but Hines didn't know that if he didn't think too far ahead, how could it be easy to create a complete industrial system on the continent that didn't have any foundations? Just like how Hines had been furious with Sue E for the first time after learning that Sue E had really given the magic fan technology to the business union, claiming that he was digging his own grave. Sue E couldn't explain it to him at all. This was because Sue E couldn't let Hines believe that these large companies that they could only look up to right now would be restricted by the new flyer. He also couldn't tell Hines that the other important reason for doing this was that he wanted more people and powers on the continent to invest in the magic machine industry, helping him create an industrial system. Hines couldn't understand Sue Yi's thoughts, and no one else in Signs could understand his thoughts. So even if Sue Yi wanted to open his mind and tell Chairman Rank and the others that he could even share all the technology he knew, hoping that everyone could create an industrial system together and create a better future, he could only keep these thoughts in his heart. He could only scheme against Chairman Rank and the others, afraid that the weak new flyer would be swallowed up by these giants. I've suddenly found that I have a tendency towards masochism. Sue Yi couldn't help giving a self-deprecating laugh. After laughing, Sue Yi took a deep breath and forcefully slapped his forehead. He shook his head and threw out these chaotic thoughts that had suddenly appeared in his mind. Although it was very difficult, since he had already set his goal, he had to take it step by step. If he couldn't even learn a little bit of mechanical toughness, then what qualifications did he have to be a mechanical engineer? Suddenly, there was the sound of hurried footsteps behind him. Sue Yi turned around and saw Alex rushing over with a blueprint in his hand. "Chairman, a guest is looking for you." Alex stood in front of Sue Yi and handed the blueprint in his hand to Sue Yi. "This guest is very strange. She didn't even want to show her face. She only told me that if I gave this to you, you would go see her." Sue Yi took the blueprint and glanced over it. He laughed. "She came so quickly. It seems like she's in a hurry." He raised his head and asked Alex, "Where's the guest? Where is she?" "She said that she didn't want to see anyone other than the chairman, so I arranged for her to wait in the office." Alex replied, You did very well. Go back to work. I'm going to see this guest." Alex looked at Sue Yi and hesitated a bit. He said with some worry, "Chairman, this guest is very strange. I think it's better if you don't go see her alone. If something happens." Sue Yi laughed and stared at Alex. "Did you forget that I'm also a magician, but your magic level isn't?" Alex said half of his sentence and quickly closed his mouth. Sue Yi unhappily waved his hand at him. "All right, don't talk nonsense. Go back to your post. I'm going to see her." After sending Alex away, Sue Yi went straight to the office. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a person wrapped in a long robe sitting on a chair in the office. Even though she was facing the office door, her head and face were covered so tightly that it was impossible to see her face clearly. Sue Yi looked over this person and said with a smile, "Didn't you say that you don't believe in humans, dear Miss Agnes?" Chapter 83. The mysterious guest stood up and took off the hood covering her head, revealing a beautiful face with a trace of heroic spirit, as well as a pair of long pointed ears. It was the female elf Agnes that Sue Yi had seen in the Angola tribe last time. "I still don't believe in humans right now." Agnes didn't seem to hear the teasing in Sue Yi's voice as her face remained calm. "If it wasn't for the elders saying that the blueprint you gave could help solve our tribe's problem, I wouldn't have been sent here." Sue Yi revealed a smile and didn't waste any more time on meaningless words. He asked Agnes to sit down again and poured her a cup of cold water according to her request. Then he sat down in front of her and took out the blueprint that Alex had just seen. This blueprint was the one that Sue Yi had left with Chief Monto when he left the Angola tribe, telling him to give it to Agnes. So when he saw this blueprint and heard from Alex that this guest wasn't even willing to show her face, Sue Yi immediately guessed that this guest should be Agnes. "Young Miss Agnes, based on your meaning, not only did you see this blueprint, you even brought it back to your tribe's elder to see?" Sue Yi asked. "Yes." After the elder saw it, he felt that the method you mentioned had a high possibility, so he had me ask you about the specifics of this method. "What needs to be done?" Agnes said with a nod. Sue Yi took the blueprint and looked it over. He thought that the plan he had provided was based on many similar cases on Earth, so of course it had a high possibility of being done. "I'm very sorry, young Miss Agnes. I'm afraid I can't tell you the specifics. Sue, he shook his head. I only heard about some of the difficulties you encounter from Patriarch Monto, and then I gave you a rough solution based on my own experience. However, because I don't know the specific situation, I can't give you a more specific solution. Unless I can go and inspect it, I can't be sure of what to do. Agnes was silent for a bit before asking, Your meaning is that you want to go to our tribe to see the specific situation? That's right, Sue said with certainty. Agnes was silent for a bit before shaking her head. I'm afraid that's not possible. Our tribe hasn't had a human enter for several hundred years, and we don't welcome humans. Then I can only helplessly help. Sue spread his hands and helplessly said, Young Miss Agnes, I think you have to admit that solving the problem of the river is a large project. I can't give you a specific solution based on my imagination. If you won't even let me inspect it, then I can only apologize. Agnes was silent for a bit before suddenly standing up. She reached out her right index and middle finger to her chest and gave a slight bow to Sue. Since it's like this, then I'll be leaving. After saying this, Agnes didn't even turn her head as she walked out. Sue opened his mouth and wanted to call out to her, but he gave up after thinking about it. The elves had this kind of personality. Even if he called Agnes back, it wouldn't change her mind, so it was better to let the elves decide for themselves. Anyway, Sue wasn't worried about this matter. The ones worried were the elves. After thinking about things in the office for a bit, Sue stood up and left the office. He gave manager Riley some requests for the new factory before sitting in a horse carriage and heading to a small courtyard in the north of Banda City. When he walked into the small courtyard, Sue heard Baron Hannes' angry roar. Miller, move faster. If we can't finish all the manuscripts before dinner, we might not be able to sleep tonight. McCorvey, stop standing there in a daze. Why aren't you quickly printing the manuscripts that have already been prepared? What are you just standing here for? Megan, are those fellows collecting the news not back yet? It's almost time to finalize the manuscripts. If they don't come back soon, they can forget about getting their wages today. Hearing this deep and hoarse voice, Sue found that he couldn't connect this voice to the young Baron Hannes from the first time he met him. It seemed like the days he spent as the chief editor of the Banda Times had changed Baron Hannes quite a bit. Walking into the small building in the courtyard, he found that it was a busy scene. There were over 10 young men and women. Some of them were furiously writing something, some of them were organizing documents, and some of them were running around, passing things around. The one standing in the middle giving orders while looking over the manuscripts in his hand was Baron Hannes. It was unknown if it was because he was too busy, but Baron Hannes' face was covered in a beard, and he looked quite rough. His clothes were a bit messy, and there were many places with ink that came from who knew where. He was completely different from the clean and disciplined person Sue saw him for the first time. Hey, Your Excellency Baron, are you still busy? Sue raised his hand to greet Baron Hannes. Hearing this voice, Baron Hannes turned his head in surprise. After seeing Sue, his brows jumped up, and he revealed a look of joy. Chairman Sue, it's great that you're here. I was looking for you. Oh, you're looking for me? What is it? Sue was a bit surprised. Could it be that the magic printer is broken? No. The magic printer is our treasure. How could it break like this? But I'm looking for you because of the magic printer. This. Chairman Sue, look, our Banda Times is selling more and more, and with just a single magic printer, it's a bit hard to keep up. Can you help me make another one? No, it's best if it's 2. Oh no, it's best if it's 3. How about it? 3 magic printers? It shouldn't be that hard for you, right? You're certain it's 3? Sue looked at Baron Hannes in surprise. The magic printer he designed was an improved version of the movable type printing technology from Earth. Because the signs used letters, it was much simpler compared to ancient China's movable type printing technology from Earth. With the wind attributed array as the driving force, it was enough to print 2,000 pages in an hour. The Banda Times had a total of 10 pages, so even with the front and back pages, it was only 20 pages. This meant that with a magic printer at full power, it could print 100 copies of the Banda Times in an hour. Sue knew that Baron Hannes would decide the contents of the next day's Banda Times before dinner each night. So from 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning, there was a total of 12 hours to print the Banner Times. Even without the rest time and some unexpected time consumption, there was enough time to print 1,000 copies of the Banner Times. Now that Baron Hannes had requested 3 more magic printers from Sue E., it meant that the number of copies of the Banner Times would surpass 3,000. This was a shocking number. It had to be known that Banta City's population was less than 30,000 people, and if it was divided into households, it would be around 5,000 households. With the education level of the people of Banta City, it was impossible for every household to buy the Banner Times. It would be good if they even bought a tenth of it. So, a single magic printer was enough. That's right, there are 3 of them. Baron Hannes nodded with certainty. Baron Hannes nodded with a confident look. Sue E., you haven't been here in a while, so you might not know this. Right now, the Banta Times is selling close to 1,000 copies in Banta City each day, and I've already sent people to set up a store in each village. Even if each village can only sell 1 or 2 copies each day, it is clearly increasing. I'm certain that it won't take long before the villages outside the city sell many copies of the Banner Times. Because there are more people outside the city than inside the city, perhaps the sales of the Banner Times outside the city will break 1,000 copies in the future. This isn't enough for you to request 3 magic printers at once, right? Sue E. said in a confused voice. Baron Hannes laughed. Sue E., do you know that other than the Banner Times, I've also opened 2 branches in Sultan City and Karma City? Sue E. was stunned as he said in a surprised voice, It's this fast. Baron Hannes revealed a proud smile. It's this fast. If nothing unexpected happens, I guarantee that within a week, the Sultan Times and the Karma Times will be published. When that time comes, I'll know these 3 cities like the back of my hand. Moreover, just watch. I'll spread these newspapers to every corner of the Lampari Kingdom, even spreading them all over the signs. Seeing Baron Hannes' proud and energetic appearance, Sue E. couldn't help sighing in his heart. When he saw Baron Hannes for the first time, Sue E. thought that he was just a normal noble with a good upbringing. He never thought that after he showed his gossipy side and Sue E. helped him create the Banner Times, he would suddenly change. He would become this passionate journalist who also had the energy of a normal person. The reason why the Banner Times could develop this quickly was because Baron Hannes had invested a large amount of effort into it. With his family's background and connections, Baron Hannes didn't meet any unexpected obstacles when establishing the Banner Times. This novel thing was naturally welcomed by countless people, so it could develop to this point in a short period of time. Actually, Hannes, the name of the newspaper isn't just the newspaper. You can call it the Sultan Times or the Karma Herald, or other names. Sue E. gave a small suggestion at the right time. After seeing the happy look on Baron Hannes' face, he suddenly changed the topic. But speaking of this, Hannes, are you really prepared to stay in Banta City and not return to Anvilmar City? Chapter 84. Hearing this question, the excited look on Hannes' face froze. After a while, he slumped down like he was discouraged. Sue E., I thought that you were here to cheer me on, but I never thought that you would bring up this dampening topic. Baron Hannes seemed like he was suddenly tired. He found a chair to sit in and waved his hand with an annoyed look. Leslie and Sir Count have already talked to me about this matter, urging me to return to Anvilmar City. There are also people from my family who have come to urge me, but when I think about how I have to stay in that boring city of Anvilmar City all day, breathing the heavy air and facing those lifeless people, I can't think of going back at all. After saying this, Baron Hannes paused and took a deep breath. He looked out the window with a look of intoxication. Think about it. Life here is so good. Although I don't sleep as much and I don't eat as well as I do at home, I'm filled with passion every day, and I feel like my entire body is filled with energy. Since I was young, I've never found anything that could make me this excited, making me throw myself into it. I even feel that the things I'm doing right now should be a great undertaking that I can devote my entire life to. Compared to this, whether it is being a hypocritical politician or being a rotten merchant, I feel that it is better to just die. Suit E. Do you know that just the day before yesterday, our Banatimes reported on a piece of news outside the city? It was about a small noble who raped the daughter of a normal farmer, and in the end, the farmer's daughter committed suicide by jumping into a river out of shame. According to normal circumstances, this matter would have been suppressed like this. Nothing would have happened to that small noble, and that pitiful girl would have died for nothing. But now that this matter has been reported by our Banatimes, Sir Count was filled with rage after seeing this. He sent people to capture that small noble and gave him 20 lashes according to the rules of the royal parliament, as well as making him compensate the farmer's family with 30 gold coins. I can say that if it wasn't for our Banatimes upholding justice, this matter definitely wouldn't have been handled this well. Looking at Baron Hannes' righteous expression, Sue could only smile bitterly. 20 lashes and a compensation of 30 gold coins was considered to be upholding justice? Good processing results were obtained. That was a human life we were talking about. However, Sue knew that Baron Hannes was right. This was the reality of signs. The status of nobles was far higher than that of commoners. Even if nobles raped commoners, they would only receive such a punishment. If it wasn't for the Banatimes reporting this and attracting the attention of City Lord Samo Count, this small noble wouldn't have been punished at all. Sue was powerless to change this reality, so he could only remain silent. Compared to Su's silence, Baron Hannes became more and more excited. He began to tell Sue about the various things that the Banatimes had done during this time. There were things like exposing a small noble for upholding justice, as well as the news of a commoner's son being filial to his disabled parents, as well as some information that the Lord City Lord had revealed through the Banatimes. Sue patiently listened to him, and when he finished, he said in a thoughtful voice, "Hannes, I admit that you're right. The Banatimes is indeed a great undertaking that you can dedicate your life to. It is even greater than you can imagine. However, I have to warn you that the enterprise you wish to pursue will be met with terrible difficulties, and if you do it alone, you will not be able to escape. With just you alone, I'm certain that you won't be able to continue." Hannah's face sunk. "What? You want to persuade me to work with those fellows from my family, like Leslie? Do you believe that if they join in, the taste of this newspaper will immediately change?" "Of course I believe it," Sue said with a faint smile. "Actually, Hannes, even if they don't join in, there are many people who think that the Banatimes isn't something pure and great because—" Sue pointed at himself. "There's a merchant like me who is covered in a rotten smell joining in." Hannes was stunned, thinking of what he had just said in his anger. He revealed an embarrassed smile to Sue. "Don't misunderstand. I wasn't talking about you just now. Compared to those fellows, Sue, you can be considered a very conscientious merchant. Last time your new flyer released the farmer support plan that changed the lives of the 23 families that joined the plan. It also greatly increased the efficiency of the fall harvest outside the city, which is a very good thing. If you didn't give the magic machines to those 23 families as a gift, they definitely wouldn't have been able to afford it. Don't think of me as a noble person. If you look at this farmer support plan from a business perspective, I've earned quite a bit. Although those 23 families don't need to pay now, they still need to pay when they earn money in the future. Other than that, I've used their hands to advertise the magic machines, and the effects are very good. I dare guarantee that when the spring harvest comes next year, the sales of our new flyers agricultural magic machines will definitely increase." Sue said with a smile. "For this kind of good thing, of course it's better to sell as much as possible." Hannes laughed as he said, "I even hope that your agricultural magic machines can be seen in every farm in our Lampari Kingdom. Like this, our Lampari Kingdom's people won't need to worry about food anymore." Seeing that Baron Hannes was immersed in his youthful fantasy, Sue helplessly shook his head and decided to pull him back. "Let's return to the previous question. You say that I'm different from other merchants, but other people don't think this. Everyone who reads the Banatimes will find that the Banatimes always reports the matters of our Frestek Chamber of Commerce. To them, this is advertising for our Frestek Chamber of Commerce, which means that the Banatimes is opened by our Frestec Chamber of Commerce. Who's talking nonsense? Baron Hannes said angrily. Baron Hannes angrily said, Is it the other companies in Banna City? Those disgusting fellows, they don't know it all. If it wasn't for you stopping me, I would have reported more about your new flyer. Because in my opinion, the magic machines your new flyer produces are things that can change people's lives. Those fellows only know how to envy your achievements, but they can't see the true value of new flyers' products. They're simply short-sighted. Sue, he had a bitter smile as he stopped Baron Hannes from exploding again. He said with a serious look, Let's not talk about why they say this first. This is the truth. Hannes, even if I admire you for insisting that the Banna Times remain independent, you have to admit that it is impossible for you to not be influenced by anyone or anything. Then do you think that in a situation where you have to make a choice, would you rather keep the newspaper in your control or let it go out of your control? Baron Hannes was a large noble after all. Although he was a bit idealistic, that didn't mean he was naive. After hearing Sui's question, he thought about it with a sunken face before giving a nod. Sui, I understand what you mean. But how is this related to you urging me to return to Amblemar? Sui said with a laugh, Of course it's related. Hannes, if you don't return to Amblemar, how long do you think the Amblemar Times will appear in Amblemar? Hannes gave a cold snort. Although those old fellows are slow in making decisions, they definitely won't let go of this chance. Even if I don't go back, I dare guarantee that they will create the Amblemar Times within the year. That's right. Since it's like this, why don't you go back early and use your advantage of being more familiar with the newspaper to be a step ahead? So he honestly said, I think that you should be very clear that the newspaper is the same as the news. The first to appear will always have the advantage. You can't control the situation in Amblemar, so you can try to influence it. Even if you aren't willing to rely on your family's strength, you have to admit that your family's strength is much stronger than you alone. Being able to control the Amblemar Times in your family's hands is much better than being controlled by other families, right? Hannes lowered his head to think for a bit before looking at Sui with a strange expression. Why are you so concerned about this matter? To be honest, you are only a small merchant right now. No matter what, this matter shouldn't be related to you, right? Why shouldn't it be related? Sui's eyes opened wide in an exaggerated manner. Hannes, did you forget? The magic printing press was developed by our new flyer. As the chairman, of course I have to open up a market for my company's products. Think about it. If there were newspapers in Amblemar City, there would be newspapers in the entire Lampari Kingdom. Even the entire signs would have newspapers. At that time, our Shinfei brand magic printing press will be able to sell countless copies. How much money would I earn? Hannes snappily rolled his eyes at Sue. It seems like I was wrong. You're no different from those fellows. You're also a disgusting fellow who is covered in the stench of money. Sui laughed and didn't care at all before asking. Then Your Excellency Baron Hannes, who is filled with justice, are you willing to return to Amblemar City and use the Amblemar Times to change that rotten city? Hannes turned his head and looked around the room before giving a deep sigh. I will go back, but I will come back here. This is where my roots are, so even if I return to Amblemar City, I will only be a passerby. After pausing, he asked Sue, I've heard that you'll be going to Amblemar City to participate in the Sorcerers Guild's certification exam. Sui nodded. All right, I'll go with you when the time comes. I'll take advantage of the remaining time to take care of my matters here. Sui gave a shrug, showing that he had no objections. Chapter 85. After leaving the Banna Times office, Sui went to the research facility in the west of the city. After knocking on the door, the one who opened it was Evita and not Akali, who chose to live on the first floor. Seeing Sui, Evita's expression was a bit surprised and a bit happy. Chairman, why are you here? Sui pointed at his stomach and said with a smile, Vivian School is organizing an autumn excursion today, so there's no one to cook for me. I don't want to eat at a restaurant, so I came here to freeload. Am I not welcome? Evita revealed a faint smile. Of course you're welcome. Please come in. Sui shook his head with a smile. If it was a collie, she would definitely tease him. Evita's personality was completely different from a collie's. She was much calmer. After looking around, he didn't see a collie, so Sue casually asked, "Where's a collie?" "She went out today," Evita replied. "Went out?" Sue was surprised. "What? Did she have something to do?" Evita revealed a faint smile. "Sir Chairman, did you forget that today is Sunday? You said that you would give us a break every Sunday." "Oh, right, I forgot. I even said that I wanted to see your research progress." Sue patted his forehead. He really was too busy. He even forgot the day of the week. Looking at Evita, he noticed that she was wearing an apron made of coarse cloth. "Since it's Sunday, why are you still wearing this? Could it be that you're still working?" Speaking of work, Evita's eyes lit up. "Chairman, I made some new discoveries that I want to study with you. You came at the right time today. Do you want to take a look at my new discovery?" "Oh, new discovery, what is it?" "Is it the magic air conditioner?" Sue asked. Seeing that it was about to enter winter, Sue had recently given Steele's group a new task, which was the new version of the magic air conditioner. The first magic air conditioner was a single cooling air conditioner for summer, and now that the weather was getting colder, what Sue had them study this time was the variable temperature magic air conditioner. Of course, the first thing to be solved was the problem of the heating magic array. But Evita shook her head. "No, it's about the magic lamp." Sue was a little surprised. "So fast. It's only been a few days, and you've already solved the problem of the flashing thunder array's continuous output?" Evita shook her head. "Although we have made some progress, we can't really say that we've solved this problem. I'm talking about another new discovery." "Then what is it?" Sue asked, puzzled. "I'm afraid you won't understand if I just tell you. Let me take you there." Evita waved at Sue and walked towards the stairs to the second floor. Sue hesitated a bit before understanding. With a self-deprecating laugh, he followed her. He had come to this research facility many times, but this was his first time coming to the second floor. Compared to the mess on the first floor, the space on the second floor was incomparably tidy. At a glance, no matter what it was tidy and tidy. Even the various experimental materials on the workbench were meticulously arranged, and there was no sign of disorder. Other than this, Evita had even placed several pots of plants in the space that wasn't considered spacious. Even though it was already winter, these pots of plants were still green, adding a bit of vitality to the room. Sue looked around and saw several decorations that should be made of cloth hanging on the wall. Even if the material was simple, the design was exquisite, and there was a bit of cuteness in the design. It wasn't inferior to the decorations made by professional cloth artisans in the store. "Evita, did you make this all by yourself?" Sue pointed at the flower on his right that had been forcefully pieced together as he spoke. A blush appeared on Evita's face as she lightly nodded. "You really are clever with your hands." Sue praised and then laughed. "Only you can make these things. If it was a collie or steel, I really can't imagine." Evita's face became even redder. She wanted to defend a collie and steel, but she found that she couldn't do so. With their personalities, how could they bear to use pieces of cloth to make these complicated decorations? It was a good thing that Sue didn't linger on this topic and asked Evita, "All right, where's the new discovery you mentioned? Let me see it." Evita finally calmed down and picked up a small wooden stick from the workbench and handed it to Sue. Sue took a look and asked in shock, "Isn't this fluorescent grass? This is your new discovery? What does this have to do with the magic lamp?" Evita lightly nodded. "Chairman, last time when you gave us the magic crystal lamp, didn't you say that there was a method to heat the metal wire to a very high temperature and the metal wire would emit light, and then it could be used to make the magic lamp?" "And I did say that, but I also said that I can't make that metal wire right now, so I can't make the magic lamp for now." Sue looked at the fluorescent grass in Evita's hand and said with a frown, "You can't be saying that this thing can replace the metal wire, right? This thing will probably be burned to ashes with a little heat. It's not wrong to say that it can replace it, but it can't be heated like you said." Evita smiled and returned to the workbench. She pointed at the magic array on the workbench and said, "Chairman, look, This is the improved lightning array that we've researched over the past few days. Although it doesn't have the ability to emit light steadily like you said, it can already release lightning for close to a minute. Sue, he said with a nod of praise. Very good. If you can make this magic array release lightning with the support of the magic crystal, then the magic lamp can be easily made. Evita looked at Sue and, after hesitating a bit, it was like she made her decision as she said, Chairman, actually, don't you think that even if we can improve this magic array to release lightning like you said, it wouldn't be suitable for making a magic lamp? Oh, why is that? Sue asked in a surprised voice. Because the light it releases is too strong. Akali and I tested it at night before. The lightning released by this magic array could light up the entire room, but the light was too strong and we couldn't even open our eyes. I think that if we make it into a magic lamp, it wouldn't be practical, right? It's like this. Sue thought for a bit before slowly nodding. You do make a bit of sense, but I don't think this problem is hard to solve. We just need to lower the might of the magic array and weaken the intensity of the lightning. I'm afraid that's not possible. Evita shook her head. We asked His Excellency Great Magician Camilla, and His Excellency Great Magician said that thunder magic is a high-level wind magic, so there's a requirement for the strength of the elemental magic. This flash thunder array can only release lightning without the might of the lightning, so it is a failed thunder magic array. However, it is still a thunder magic array, so there is a requirement for the strength of the elemental magic. This flash thunder array has already lowered this requirement to the minimum. If we lower the might of the magic array, it will completely fail and we won't even be able to release lightning. His Excellency Great Magician said this. Suti knit his brows. He could only grasp 4th level magic right now and didn't understand high-level thunder magic at all. Of course, he could only listen to His Excellency Great Magician's professional opinion. Then according to what Great Magician Camilla said, wouldn't this magic array be completely useless? It can't be said that it's useless. Look, Chairman. Evita raised the fluorescent grass in her hand with a smile before placing it in the center of the magic array. As Evita's finger touched the magic array, a trace of magic was injected into it. The magic array flashed with a faint blue light and was instantly activated. Sue stared at the changes in the magic array and felt the elemental magic continuously gather in the center of the magic array. In the blink of an eye, large amounts of elemental magic had been condensed in the center of the magic array. According to Evita's demonstration from before, at this time, there would be a bolt of lightning in the center of the magic array that would release a bright light. Sue narrowed his eyes. When he was prepared to receive this bright bolt of lightning, he found that the center of the magic array had a faint flash of light. Then it seemed like it was being sucked in by the fluorescent grass, completely entering the fluorescent grass. Sue, he was about to speak in surprise when he saw the fluorescent grass suddenly light up. After a while, it released a gentle and bright light. Evita took back her hand that was injecting magic into the magic array. The light of the magic array faded, but the fluorescent grass was still releasing light. Without waiting for Sue to react, Evita had already pulled down all the curtains. Although the light from the outside had been blocked out, the inside of the house could still be seen clearly because of the light emitted by the fluorescent grass. Sue stared at the fluorescent grass in surprise for a while. He found that although the light it released was bright, it wasn't dazzling at all. It even had a trace of gentleness. This is your new discovery. Sue asked Evita. Evita lightly nodded. I once saw a record in a book. It said that in the Pamir Plateau of the Kamla Empire, there was a grassland covered in fluorescent grass. Every time there was thunder and lightning, that grassland would release a gentle light. It was very beautiful. These past few days, when I was researching this lightning array, I suddenly thought of this record. I guess that the fluorescent grass might be helpful, so I did some experiments. Chairman, what do you think of the effects? Sue laughed. Just as he was about to praise Evita, a frivolous voice suddenly came from the door. Hey, dear Evita, it's broad daylight. What are you doing with the curtains drawn and our beloved chairman in the room? Chapter 86. He was surprised. He turned around and saw that Akali had appeared outside the door without him knowing. She was leaning against the door and looking at him and Evita with a faint smile on her face. Akali, what nonsense are you saying? Evita reprimanded Akali and then quickly went to the window to pull back all the curtains. Seeing Evita's face turn red under the sunlight, Sui revealed a faint smile. He thought that Evita's face was really thin. He turned back to look at Akali, and his eyes swept over her neck. Sui was surprised to find a necklace on her neck. Although this necklace looked quite exquisite, it was clearly lacking compared to the one President rank gave to Akali at the banquet. Sui pointed at Akali's neck and asked in confusion, "Since you like wearing necklaces, why don't you wear the one President rank gave you? It's more suitable for you than this one, right?" President Rank's necklace. Akali's expression changed a bit unnaturally before revealing a bitter smile. She turned around and walked down the stairs. Sui was even more confused. He had only asked about the necklace, so why was Akali's reaction so strange? Did something happen to her in the past few days? Sui asked Evita in shock. Evita shook her head blankly. "It's nothing." "President, so that necklace wasn't given to her by you?" "Me?" Sui also shook his head. "That necklace was given to her by the Serene Chamber of Commerce's President rank. It has nothing to do with me." "So it's from a Serene Chamber of Commerce. No wonder it's beautiful." Evita nodded slightly. She looked at Sui and then smiled. President rank must have given Akali that necklace because of you, so it's not wrong to say that you gave it to her." No. You can't say that." Sui waved his hand. President rank giving it to her and me giving it to her directly are two completely different things. You can't say that blindly. "That's right. Mr. President, you're not my boyfriend, and you didn't agree to my request to marry you. Of course, this necklace can't be considered as a gift from you." Akali's voice faintly sounded at the door again. Sui turned around and saw that Akali was holding a box in her hand. It was the same box that President Rank had given Akali that day. Seeing Sui's gaze sweep over, Akali took 2 steps forward and stuffed the box in her hand into Sui's hands. "President, please help me return this necklace to President Rank. Just say that I'm not qualified to wear it." Sui knit his brows, but he didn't reach out to take the box. Instead, he seriously looked at Akali. He found that although she looked calm on the surface, from the twitching of her eyebrows and the flaring of her nose, he could tell that her heart was not calm at all. Sui looked at Evita with a probing gaze, but Evita slightly shook her head. Thinking about it, Sui tentatively said, "Akali, this is President Rank's gift to you. If you return it to him, it would be very rude to him. He might misunderstand that you have a problem with him. I don't care. I'm not qualified to wear it anyway." Akali loudly cut off Sui's words. Sui didn't think that Akali's reaction would be so intense. He couldn't help being stunned. After looking at Akali's expression for a while, he finally sighed in his heart and reached out to take the box. "All right, since you insist that you don't want it, then I'll take it. But I can't return it to President Rank. I can't let him misunderstand. It's fine if you don't return it to President Rank, but I don't want it," Akali said stiffly. Sui looked at the stubborn Akali and couldn't help giving a bitter laugh. He thought that whether it was on Earth or on this continent, it was hard to guess the thoughts of a little girl who wasn't even 20 years old. He originally wanted to discuss the combination of the fluorescent grass and the lightning flash array with Evita, as well as get a free meal, but with the current atmosphere, it clearly wasn't suitable for him to stay. After thinking about it, Sui explained his thoughts to Evita and had Evita research the fluorescent grass further. It would be best if the fluorescent grass could continuously and stably emit light. They could change the intensity of the light or even adjust it at will. Evita agreed to everything. While Sui was explaining, Akali just stood there expressionlessly. She didn't say anything, and the atmosphere in the room was very awkward. After he finished explaining his thoughts with great difficulty, Su-e directly said goodbye to the two of them. Looking at Akali before leaving, Su-e paused before he couldn't help saying, Akali, if you have any thoughts, you can tell me directly. We've been together for several months, so you should know that I'm not someone who isn't easy to talk to. Of course, if you feel that it's hard to talk to me, you still have Evita and Steel. You're two good friends, so you could talk to them. In short, you and Evita left home to come to Bana City and work in our new flyer, so I don't want you to have a bad life here, understand? Akali bit her lip and still didn't say anything. Sui gave a sigh and looked at Evita before pointing at Akali. Evita gave a slight nod, indicating to Su-e to be assured. Su-e waved his hand and rejected Evita's offer to send him off before leaving. Hearing the sound of Su-e coming down the stairs and hearing the sound of Su-e closing the door, Akali's expression suddenly collapsed. Two streams of tears came out of her eyes, and she threw herself onto Evita's bed, sobbing while hitting the bed. Evita shook her head with a sigh. She walked to the side of the bed and patted Akali's back as she said in a soft voice, All right, you know that it's impossible, so why did you have to hit yourself? After a while, Akali slowly stopped sobbing. She suddenly rubbed her head against the blanket a few times before turning her head to look at Evita with a stubborn expression. How do you know it's impossible if you don't try? Evita said with a bitter smile, But you've already tried. Do you think it's possible? Akali's face turned bitter again. It seems impossible. Hey, Evita, do you think I'm much worse than Steel? Evita stared at Akali for a while before nodding with a serious expression. You're indeed much worse. At the very least, Steel wouldn't cry like you do. Also, you have to admit that Steel is much prettier than you. Humph. Being pretty isn't the only thing. Akali muttered. Also, from what I've seen, Sir Chairman doesn't seem to treat her very special. Evita couldn't help but hit Akali's forehead. Are you an idiot? Steel is prettier than you and has a better personality than you. She has spent more time with Sir Chairman than you, and yet Sir Chairman doesn't have any thoughts about her. Then why do you think Sir Chairman will have any thoughts about you? Perhaps Sir Chairman likes my type? Steele said in an unconvinced voice. Her eyes turned, and she suddenly asked with a mysterious look, Evita, Sir Chairman is already 27 this year, but he isn't married yet. Moreover, we haven't seen him have any close relationships with any girls. Even a beauty like Steele doesn't have any special feelings for him. It can't be that he likes men, right? Hashtag, 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 achoo. Sue-e gave a strong sneeze, and he couldn't help pinching his nose before looking up at the sky. One of his goals in coming to the research facility was to freeload dinner. It was already rather late when he went, and now that he had left, the sky was already a bit dark. It was already the beginning of November, and the Science continent was entering winter. Because it was in the southwest of the continent, the Lampari Kingdom's winter wasn't as cold as the north. But once night fell in Bana City, it was still cold. Sue-e tidied up his clothes and wrapped himself up even more tightly. Right, I almost forgot. Vivian shouldn't have winter clothes yet. It seems like I need to find some time to buy some for her. But I'm not familiar with girls' clothes, so I need to find Steele and the others for help. Thinking of this, Sue-e naturally thought of Akali. Touching the box in his chest, Sue-e couldn't help revealing a bitter smile. This was because he had been immersed in mechanical research all day on Earth, so he didn't have time or energy to interact with girls at all. After coming to this world, he had been busy familiarizing himself with this world and working hard to survive in it, so it was impossible for him to have any deep interactions with the girls of this world. So he couldn't understand why Akali would have such a strange reaction. But he understood that for a girl of Akali's age, it was the hardest to understand, so it wasn't strange that he couldn't see through it. He wasn't prepared to guess, because compared to the thoughts of a little girl, there were just too many things that he needed to consider right now. Whether it was the development of the new magic machines or the steps of creating an industrial system, they all required a large amount of time and energy. Other than this, New Flyer was facing a crisis brought by its rapid development. Even a magic power that Sue-e didn't care about the most had to be increased. These two things also required Sue-e Su-E to invest time and energy into. There were many times when Su-E wanted to split himself into several parts, with each part focusing on one aspect. That way, he could develop these aspects better. But the fact was that this was impossible. In these aspects, there were many things that no one could replace Su-E, so he could only focus his energy and time as much as possible, not daring to waste a single bit. It was a good thing that Su-E was a workaholic on Earth. As long as it was something that interested him in mechanical research, he would become more and more interested. Actually, in the end, it's still the same problem. Talents are hard to come by. Su-E tapped his forehead, thinking that this problem really didn't have a solution. The understanding of magic and the signs was still limited to destruction and slaughter. Even if there were practical applications like the magic crystal lamp, there were only a few coincidences and it wasn't widespread at all. If Su-E wanted to create a complete industrial system in the signs, he could only use magic machines to change the understanding of the people of the signs bit by bit. The good news was that at least in Banna City, the people of Banna City already had a good understanding of magic machines. It would be good if there were more magicians who understood how to use magic. It would be best if all the magicians on the continent studied magic, then I wouldn't need to work so hard. It's a pity. Su-Yi's eyes suddenly fell onto the side of the road. Two familiar figures appeared in front of him, walking into a small restaurant by the road. Chapter 87. Su-Yi hesitated a bit before following in. That familiar man and woman were being led to a table by a waiter. When they were about to order, Su-Yi had already arrived in front of them. "Hey, Ramwella, aren't you two in Sultan City?" Su-Yi raised his hand to greet the two of them. Rem and Wella looked at Su-Yi, who had suddenly appeared in a daze. After being stunned for a bit, Wella suddenly said with a sigh, "Banta City really is a small place. It's possible to meet acquaintances at any time. But Su-Yi, the person I don't want to see the most right now is you." Rem's expression was also a bit awkward. His eyes avoided looking at Su-Yi, as if he didn't dare look at Su-Yi. "Oh, why don't you want to see me?" Su-Yi didn't hold back at all as he sat down in a chair to the side. He asked Wella in a curious voice, "I didn't do anything wrong to you, right, Wella?" "No, it's the opposite. I did something wrong to you." After a few months, Wella seemed to have lost the sharp aura she had when she was in Carmilla's Mage Tower. Her entire person seemed a bit more depressed, but her words were still clear and she didn't try to hide anything. Su-Yi was silent for a bit before saying with a faint smile, "I've heard that you and Rem were in charge of researching magic machines at Sultan City's Leo Chamber of Commerce. You said that you did something wrong to me. Could it be related to this?" Wella gave a slight nod. When she was about to speak, Rem reached out to stop her. "Wella, don't say it. Could it be that you don't think we've lost enough face?" Rem's expression was a bit pained. Wella looked at him and calmly said, "It's because we've lost face that we have to say it. Since we've met Su-Yi, it's better to tell him everything. If we can't obtain his forgiveness and help, we'll have to carry this guilt for the rest of our lives. Are you willing to do this?" Rem's raised hand froze for a long time, and the expression on his face kept changing. In the end, he let out a long sigh, put down his hand, leaned back against the chair, closed his eyes, and stopped talking. Su-Yi was curious. From the information he had gathered, Rem and Wella were very important after going to the Leo Chamber of Commerce with Cimarron. Why were the two of them in Banta City looking like they had lost their souls? Su-Yi, since you know that we went to the Leo Chamber of Commerce, then presumably you also know what we do in the Leo Chamber of Commerce, right? Wella asked again. Su-Yi nodded. "I know a little about it. The Leo Chamber of Commerce should be in charge of researching magic machines, right? I have seen the Leo Chamber of Commerce's magic fan, and it is the closest to our Shinfei brand's magic fan that I have seen. Moreover, it is the second-generation variable speed magic fan, which I have never expected. I thought that without the support of our new flyer, the other companies wouldn't be able to make their own second-generation magic fans." Rem suddenly gave a soft snort. "That isn't anything particularly hard. What can't they make?" Su-Yi smiled and didn't say anything. Wella glared at Rem and said in a deep voice, Rim, shut up. Don't you think you've lost enough face? Rim's lips twitched twice before he tightly closed his lips again, as if he wasn't prepared to say anything else this time. Wella's eyes turned back to Sue E, and, after pausing, she continued, "We thought that this new magic fan wasn't anything hard at first, and we had successfully copied the production magic machine, so it wasn't a problem to make this magic fan. In fact, with our hard work, we had indeed helped the Leo Chamber of Commerce make the same variable speed magic fan. So the Leo Chamber of Commerce had rewarded me and Rem with 100 gold coins each. But, after saying this, Wella, who was normally very calm and could even be considered expressionless, revealed a deep look of pain on her face. Sue E, do you know about the accidents in Saltan City related to the Leo Chamber of Commerce's magic fan in the magic rice cooker? Sui gave a slight nod. These accidents had even been reported in the Banatimes, so it could be seen how big their effects were. The look of pain on Wella's face became even deeper as she said with a self-deprecating laugh, "If it wasn't for us not knowing the depths of the heavens and developing the magic fan and the magic rice cooker, these accidents wouldn't have happened. Sui, do you know that when I sleep every day, the people of Saltan City who were injured and even died from the accidents will appear in my mind, making it very hard for me to sleep. They should have lived peacefully in Saltan City, but because they believed in the magic machines I developed, they met with these accidents. I'll let them down." Sui looked at Wella's face, filled with pain, and Rem, who also had a look of pain, understanding a bit. It seemed like the two of them felt that the responsibility for these accidents was placed on them, so they were burdened with a deep sense of guilt. But the strange thing was that Wella had just said that she had let down Sui. So why was that? "Sui, do you know what the Leo Chamber of Commerce's production magic machines are?" Wella asked back. Sui knit his brows and thought about it before saying, "The structure of the production magic machines is much more complicated than the magic fan and the magic rice cooker. The Leo Chamber of Commerce's production magic machines weren't bought from our new flyer. Rather, they developed them themselves. But the magic fan and magic rice cooker that you developed had quality problems, so the Leo Chamber of Commerce's production magic machines should be even more unreliable. However, I've never heard of the Leo Chamber of Commerce's production magic machines having problems. This means that the production magic machine technology wasn't developed by you. In other words..." Suyi's eyes looking at Wella and Rim suddenly became sharp. "Wella, the production magic machine technology was stolen by you from our new flyer? Isn't the word steal a little too harsh?" Rim, who had been silent for a while, couldn't help but speak up. Rim, who had been silent for a long time, couldn't help saying, "Sui, I admit that we did obtain some information on the production magic machines from New Flyer, but we also added some of our own understanding into the production magic machines of the Leo Chamber of Commerce. So it can't be considered completely copying your New Flyer's production magic machines." Sui looked at Rim and shook his head, not planning on discussing this matter with him. In the signs, there was no such thing as intellectual property rights or patents. So strictly speaking, even if Rim and Wella really did steal the production magic machine technology from New Flyer, there wasn't a problem in terms of law. But even if there was no problem in terms of law, there wasn't a problem in terms of morality. The signs treated a person's research as a secret and placed great importance on it. If other people didn't have the consent of the person who stole their research, they would be looked down upon by others. The reason why Wella felt that she had wronged Sui was because of this. Just like Sui had analyzed, the reason why the Leo Chamber of Commerce could make their own production magic machines was because Rim and Wella had stolen the production magic machine technology from New Flyer. Otherwise, the Leo Chamber of Commerce didn't have any foundation in magic machine research, so it was impossible for them to develop a more complicated production magic machine that required a more precise structure. Let me think. Wella, I remember that before you left Banda City, you told me that you wanted to visit our company's factory. Was that when you obtained the information on the production magic machines? Sui asked. Yes. Wella nodded. Sui, actually, I was just curious back then. I wanted to see what the magic machines that were more complicated than the magic fan looked like. I didn't want to steal the technology. Only after we went to the Leo Chamber of Commerce and faced a lot of pressure, I finally thought of taking out the things I knew. Wella suddenly stood up and gave a deep bow to Sue-E. Sue-E, I'm sorry. Seeing Wella's actions, Rim wanted to stop her, but after reaching out his hand, he seemed to have thought of something and stopped. Sue-E looked at Wella, who was bending over, and he couldn't help sighing in his heart. Thinking of when he was in Carmilla's magic tower, Wella was very arrogant in the lab because of her magic power and talent, as if she wouldn't lower her head to anyone. Now that she was bowing to him who had the lowest magic power in the lab to apologize, it really was surprising. Looking at Wella for a while, Sue-E waved his hand. No need. I don't like people saying sorry. There's no meaning to it. You should just tell me why you suddenly appeared in Banda City. Wella wasn't a sloppy person. After hearing Sue-Yi's words, she sat down again and replied after pausing for a bit. It's nothing. Since there have been so many accidents, someone has to take responsibility. We're the main magicians in charge of researching magic machines, so of course we have to take responsibility. A week ago, we were fired by the Leo Chamber of Commerce. Sue-Yi nodded, not being surprised at all. The Leo Chamber of Commerce's method was similar to many companies on Earth. This means that the two of you are currently unemployed. Sue-Yi asked. Wella and Rim looked at each other before saying with a sigh, we can't stay in Sultan City anymore. We came back to Banda City because we were Banta people to begin with. But we left great magician Camilla back then, so it's impossible for us to go back now. Rim and I have discussed this, and in a few days, after we calm down a bit, we'll leave this place and go to a city further away to take a look. I understand that you don't want to return to Carmilla's Magician Tower, but why do you want to leave Banda City for another place? Sue-Yi said, even in Banda City, with your strength and knowledge, you can find a very suitable job. Wella shook her head. It's impossible. Only great magician Camilla can do magic research in Banda City, and it's impossible for us to study magic machines now. So there's no meaning in staying in Banda City. Of course it's not meaningless, Sue-Yi said with a faint smile. Sue-Yi said with a faint smile, as long as you're willing, I can represent the new flyer to welcome you. How about it? Do you want to come? Wella and Rim looked at Sue-Yi in surprise. Chapter 88. Sue-Yi, just what are you thinking in that head of yours? Steele held Sue-Yi's head without any politeness and looked around with a look of confusion. Wella clearly admitted that she stole the magic machine technology from you. You still want to hire this kind of person to the research facility? Aren't you afraid that she'll steal the more important technology in the future? If I'm afraid of everything, then I might as well not think about researching technology. Anyway, anyone can steal it, right? For example, Evita, Akali, or even you. He pointed at Steele as he spoke. Nonsense. Steele slapped away Sue-Yi's hand. How are the three of us the same as Wella? You weren't close to Wella before, so the three of us can be considered your good friends now. Good friends? Sue-Yi revealed a smile. In front of enough benefits, not to mention good friends, it wasn't strange for family or even husband and wife to betray each other. But Steele reminded Sue-Yi that he hadn't set up any confidentiality measures before. So, if Evita and Akali sold the technology they had for some reason, he wouldn't have any means of defense. Because the magic machines they were researching were still low-level, they didn't involve any high-level technology, so it wasn't important. But if they stayed here longer and grasped more and more core technology, if something like this happened, it would be a large blow to New Flyer. Not mentioning anything else, just the large companies of Banda City would definitely want to obtain this core technology. If they knew of Evita and Akali's existence, knowing that these two girls had grasped many of the important technologies of New Flyer, they would definitely use a high price to entice them to sell these things. Hey, Steele, how about I sign a confidentiality agreement with you? He asked Steele. It's related to the magic machines? Steele asked back. Seeing Sue nod, Steele revealed a smile. She reached out to play with her beautiful blonde hair and revealed a proud pose. What? You only thought of this now? Dear Sir Chairman, Do you know that there are many companies in Banna City that have come looking for my grandfather, even including me? They want to know how much we know about the magic machine technology so they can buy it at a high price. Oh, how high are they willing to pay? If it's high enough, I can sell it to them. Sue-E said with a relaxed smile. Steele rolled her eyes at Sue-E and said with a cold snort, Uncle, aren't you nervous? I'm still all right, but what grandfather knows now is very important to the Chamber of Commerce. If grandfather is tempted, aren't you afraid of suffering heavy losses? Of course I'm not nervous. What kind of person is His Excellency Great Magician? How could he agree to something like this? Sue-E looked at Steele with a smile before adding, Of course, for a noble and beautiful miss like young Miss Steele, she wouldn't do something like this. Steele slightly raised her head and gave a soft snort. At least you understand. But to be honest, you should add a confidentiality agreement. For example, when Grandfather's Magic Tower signs magicians, there's a confidentiality agreement that forbids the magicians from revealing the results of the Magic Tower. If they violate this, not only will they be expelled from the Magic Tower, Grandfather will also report them to the Sorcerer's Guild. If it's serious, they will be directly disqualified as magicians. It's a pity that things like magic machines aren't protected by the Sorcerer's Guild, so the punishment can only be monetary. I'm afraid the restrictions aren't enough, Sue-E said in a helpless voice. This was the problem that Sue-E was currently facing. Signs didn't have any intellectual property protection, and the Sorcerer's Guild didn't have any measures to protect the use of magic, so the only possible punishment was according to the kingdom's laws. But the kingdom's laws only protected the assets of companies and didn't include technology. So when companies faced this situation, most of them would secretly retaliate. Sue-E wasn't willing to do this, but if there wasn't enough punishment, there was a high chance that the new Flyers technology would be leaked. Steele thought for a bit and found that there wasn't a good method, so she could only say in a discouraged voice, Then we'll just set the compensation a bit higher. It's best if we can make it so that the person can't afford it even if they lose everything, then they'll be afraid. Sue-E gave a shrug. We can only do this for now. After saying this, he looked at Steele and hesitated a bit before asking, Steele, I can completely trust you and His Excellency Great Magician. It doesn't matter if you sign the confidentiality agreement or not. But Evita and Akali. It's not that I don't trust them, but I'm not that familiar with them. I'm worried that if I make them sign the confidentiality agreement, they might have some ideas. Relax, they won't. They're my good friends, and I understand them very well. They aren't that stingy of a person. If you feel that it isn't good to mention it yourself, I can tell them for you. Leave it to me. Steele patted her towering chest as she spoke in a serious voice. Sue-E nodded with a faint smile. That's for the best. All right, let's go see your grandfather now. The two of them were talking on the top floor of the Magic Tower. Once they opened the door to the side, they entered Great Magician Camilla's private laboratory. Seeing the two of them walk in together, a faint smile appeared on Great Magician Camilla's face. He waved his hand at Sue-E and said, Come, Sue-E, take a look at this magic array. Oh, did His Excellency Great Magician come up with some new invention? Sue-E came over and looked over the magic array on the workbench. He didn't know if he could understand it or not for a while. Understanding meant that Sue-E could see with a single glance that this magic array contained both a frost array and a flame array. Moreover, these two magic arrays of completely opposite attributes were mixed together, making these two magic arrays that weren't considered complicated become even more complicated. Not understanding meant that Sue-E didn't know if this magic array could still be considered magic array. This, Your Excellency Great Magician, can this magic array be activated normally? Sue-E couldn't help asking. According to normal magic array theory, a normal magic array couldn't be mixed in with another magic array, not to mention a magic array of completely opposite attributes. This was because the elemental energy gathered by the magic array was related to the attribute of the magic array. If it was disturbed by a magic array of different attributes, it would affect its operation and might even cause it to be unable to activate. Magic was a very strict thing, and with the slightest mistake, the result would be completely different. You'll know once you try. Great magician Camilla pointed at the magic array as he spoke. Sue, E, and Steele looked at each other. They didn't know what great magician Camilla wanted to do today. Let me try. Steele reached out her hand and injected a trace of magic into the magic array. A light blue light flashed on the magic array, and Sue, E, and Steele instantly felt a chill coming from the magic array. It was already winter, and with this sudden chill, the two of them couldn't help shivering. Sue looked at the magic array and found that only half of the magic array was releasing a light blue glow. The other half didn't move at all, as if it wasn't affected by magic at all. Upon closer inspection, he discovered that the half of the formation lines that were emitting light had clearly formed a frost formation. As for the half of the magic array that wasn't affected, it was a flame array. Sue immediately understood. Your Excellency, great magician, are you stacking the frost array and the flame array together? But won't this create a conflict? Now that we've only activated the frost array, how will we activate the flame array? Faced with Sue Yi's question, great magician Camilla didn't reply. He had Steele move her hand and fiddle with the magic array. He adjusted the position of a small part of the magic array before injecting magic into it. There was a red light that came from the flame array, and the magic array was covered in flames that were less than a centimeter tall, covering the entire magic array. In just a while, the space around the magic array was filled with heat, instantly dispelling the chill around Sue, E, and Steele. Sue, E was instantly filled with joy when he saw this. Your Excellency, great magician, you actually improved the height of the flame array's flames. This is great. This kind of flame array can be used in the magic air conditioner. When Sue E had Steele's group of 3 study the flame array, because the flames created by the flame array were half a meter tall, it couldn't be used in the small magic air conditioner at all. So Sue E had them make some improvements to the flame array. It would be best if they could maintain the high temperature of the flame array while also compressing the flames to a smaller height. Steele's group of 3 were limited by their magic power, so their research speed wasn't fast. He never thought that great magician Camilla would solve this problem. No, this magic array wasn't thought of by me alone. I just combined their ideas. Great magician Camilla waved his hand and said in a humble voice, Actually, I just changed the flame array a bit and made the flames a bit smaller. Great magician Camilla said it so easily, but Sue E knew that the most difficult part of this magic array was changing the flame array. If it wasn't for a powerful great magician, with the level of magic of Steele, Evita, and Akali, it would have taken them a long time to do this. Of course, this magic array also had an exquisite design, which was to combine the frost array and the flame array together. They wouldn't conflict with each other and could be operated separately with a small change. When Sue E was designing the variable temperature magic air conditioner, in order to place both the frost array and the flame array in the magic air conditioner, he had designed the variable temperature magic air conditioner to be very spacious. It made the variable temperature magic air conditioner twice as big as the single cold magic air conditioner, so it would be a bit too conspicuous if it was hung on the wall. Now that it had been improved, the variable temperature magic air conditioner had been greatly saved. In the end, it would still be a bit bigger than the single cold magic air conditioner, but it would only be a bit bigger. Right? Your Excellency, great magician, didn't you say that you weren't interested in studying these little things, so you didn't want me to bother you with these questions? Why is it that now? Sue pointed at the magic array and asked in a curious voice. Great magician Camilla looked at him before replying, Kid, you'll be going to Anvilmar City to participate in the exam in a few days. I've heard Steele say that you've been thinking about the magic air conditioner, so I'll help you solve this problem and let you go to the exam without worrying about it. Do you understand? Although great magician Camilla said it casually, Sue Yi's heart felt warm. This great magician really cared about him too much. However, if he really wanted to have no worries, how could it be that easy? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.